As the leader of the Booner pack, I lead from the front.
All right, boys. Lock in.
It's our core foundation, man. Grit.
I'm fired up. I'm fired the f*** up, boys.
It's pumping right now. It's got my juices pumping, boys.
Welcome. How's that? How's the music?
Hey, that's some good music right there. You know what I mean? That's a perfect volume.
Make sure the music's the right volume for Lucas and Boone. But we're back. It's Wednesday.
For us. There we
Crunch
go.
Time Sport. Hope you guys are all having a great day. We got a lot to get to. Trajan Langdon's close, man. I can't wait to talk about it today. This is a big offseason for the Pistons. I mean, it is. It's a big offseason. And we got Cory Woods joining. He was at the press conference today. So we'll get to talk to Cory about it. There's an article posted on ESPN. We met Jeremy Fowler back at the Combine, and he posted something today, kind of like insider notes when it comes to like draft stuff, now that the draft's over. And we found out some info about Isaac Teslaa. So we're going to get into that too later in the show. And then we'll get to the Cowboys trade. Don't worry. Cowboys trying to make moves. Jerry Jones waiting a year to do everything. Stupid.
Man, the man's delayed in the brain. You know, he's a little older, so he's a year behind everything he does.
Yeah.
Including being the GM of the Dallas Cowboys. It's tough.
Yeah, you frozen right there, fellas?
Yeah, you know what, Klotz? I don't know what's going on. It's like you're in a different universe right now, but
all right,
we push. We what is it? We survive and conquer. I don't know.
Yeah, we keep it pushing. I think Klotzy, he's battling right now. He's battling some. It's been a while. I mean, there hasn't been any internet issues, but maybe he's having some technical issues.
Something's going on. I see him in the backstage doing something. You know what I realized too? I was reading some comments of our Rams argument. If you use words like blasphemy, people are just like commenting, be like, "This guy thinks he's Stephen A." Because the blasphemy word.
Yeah, no, it's funny how certain people,
one word,
they make a word. You know what I mean?
Like and I don't even think of it through Stephen A. I guess growing up, I've heard him say it, so maybe that's why I say it, or I had said it. But it was just funny. I was reading them, and people were like, "This guy thinks he's Stephen A." It's like, all right, yeah, that's cool. I'll take that comp.
I mean, you'll take that comp. No, but yeah, I mean, that's just it comes. I guess I've used it a bunch too. I don't use it because of Stephen A. But you know,
there's so many words out there, and there's like, I don't know, there's pretty similar ones that people use, I feel like, in sports talk. So that one just slipped out, you know, just hit me. I don't know what. By the way, okay, actually,
I'll make a word happen at some point.
Did you see my text today too? By the way, about this bug.
Yeah, you and Klotz, man. I mean, Klotz was talking earlier. I mean, the guy thinks a centipede is like.
It wasn't a normal centipede. I'm gonna tell you that. That thing was this big. It wasn't like one of those just like little like mini ones. I promise I'll tell the people. I woke up today, have shorts on, get out of bed. Getting clothes ready to go take a shower to get ready for my day. I'm up. It's 5:30, nice, bright and early. Feel something on my leg, and I'm like, I thought maybe it was just like a piece of string, short sometimes, some clothes. There is a centipede that big just crawling up my leg, and I didn't know what to do. I've never experienced such a fear in my life. So I kicked it off, and then it crawled under my bed. I don't know where it is.
Well, Shift God just put in here. I don't know if this is true. I don't know if this is true or not, but he's saying he saw on Facebook they're supposed to kill spiders.
All right, hopefully.
Look at it like that. Those things are harmless, man.
Under my bed though, it was on my leg. It was a frightening moment. I'm not a big like bugs guy. I can deal with it here and there, but that one was a.
Well, the reality is, when you get yourself a woman, you're gonna have to kill every single bug.
I could listen if I have to step up and do it, I will do it. But it was just
with the job.
5:30 in the morning. Half asleep, Jeff Iafrate. I'm sitting there going, I don't need this in my life. I thought maybe that was like the start of a zombie apocalypse, like that thing was going to crawl inside of me and turn me into a zombie or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? It happens, especially if you have a basement. Typically, that's where they are. Some spiders, it comes with the. Klotzy was like, "Oh, I hate those. I hate those so much."
That was my first encounter with one.
Not saying again. This is coming from the guy who hates bees, but I think that's a fair thing. You know what I mean? At least like the centipede doesn't sting you. You know
Well,
what I
a
mean?
bee, you at least know what a bee is. When you see a centipede with 400 legs that is the size of like a Pop-Tart crawling on you, you're going, what is this thing? This is not a creature that's supposed to be in my house, right?
I mean, that's fair. Drake Miller, appreciate it. I was trying to do my best Klotz impression. I think I nailed it.
Yeah,
I'll
I think
work
you
on
did,
it.
bro.
Yeah, I'll work on it. You gotta
It's a
add like
great
a little. You
impression.
gotta add a little splash of Toledo in there. I don't know. I don't know what that means or how that works, but you got to sprinkle a little Toledo in there. But yeah, you know what, this Trajan stuff, and for everyone, if you haven't got a chance to see it, man, I have a change of tune tonight about this season. I have them. You know what? It's funny because this show might be a change of tune for a couple things. This might be like one of those rebirth, one of those, I don't know how to describe it. It's like go ahead.
I was just gonna say, what is it? Like the reborn virgins. What are those?
Yeah, like
what is it called when you? I'm not very familiar, but I've heard people say it.
What you say? Did I hear that? Say that again. I'm gonna make sure I heard you right.
Virgin.
Yeah,
but there's a name
reborn
for
virgin.
it. There's a name. There's a term for it.
You mean those people that like convert? They like all of a sudden and like their 30s, they're like, I'm Christian, I'm a virgin. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but what is the term for that? There's a term.
I don't know, but you get the point. All right, you get the point.
Someone dropped the term. That's Jeff Iafrate.
It's something about the Lions, which you get to later. I had a realization, and then I also had it for the Pistons. And when Trajan spoke today, he dove into a lot of things. We'll talk to Cory in a little bit here, but essentially, because we're going to get into the meat and potatoes at 8:30. But he discussed the offseason and kind of what he expects and kind of where he thinks this team is at. And everyone has to realize with Trajan, and Brad was in this position too, and Scott Harris is obviously in this position too, but you have to kind of figure out what you have in a lot of players, because with a guy like Trajan, he's coming in from, he didn't draft a lot of these guys, so he's coming in from an outside perspective. I'm sure he didn't watch a ton of Pistons games while he was with the Pelicans. So his 1 year with the Pistons, he got to fully dive in, watch film, pay attention, learn more about these players, get to know them. And now I think the assumption is going into the offseason is like, well, trade everyone for, Zion Williamson or trade everyone for whoever, Giannis, not that's not going to happen, by the way. But you get my point. It's like the assumption is you're going to make this big splash move. But the more Trajan spoke today, Boone, I think the reality is you're probably going to get a similar roster going into next year. Now, there will be an addition, and he did mention that via trade, which we'll get to later. But the realization I had today is I think I'm okay with that. I think I'm okay with that because you watched a team that is very young, and they are. I know people have said this with Troy, but it's different. It feels different because of who they have as a coach and the players they have. And if they re-sign who they have to re-sign, you're going to get Ivy back with another year under his belt. You're going to get Cade back, and he had a career year. And these young guys they have, these young wings, obviously Ron Holland I'm excited for, but Asar Thompson, he mentioned it too, and it's a fair point. Asar didn't really even get an offseason because he had blood clots all summer. So it didn't really click in my mind. He kind of just jumped into the season and just said, all right, go. He didn't really get to work on his game offensively. So I think, yes, you should add someone, maybe go add a 3 or 4, maybe a guy who could play power forward and slash center. It'd be nice. But other than that, Boone, I'm comfortable with who they got.
Yeah.
You got to let things marinate. Everyone wants to mess up the meal before it's done. You know what I mean? I get that.
I want to do this too, and I hope a lot of people are on the same. If you listen to the press conference, I don't know if I'm the only one that felt this. This feels like I want to do a comparison, and I know it's people. Oh, this is an easy comparison. It truly does. And Brad Holmes and Trajan Langdon.
They speak similar.
I think it's the poise. It's the thought process. It's the way they kind of go about their business when it goes to building a roster. You hear a lot of the terminology that you heard Brad say year 1, year 2. And one thing, Jeff, today that I kept hearing from Trajan that he just kept saying was sustainable success. And he didn't just say it once or twice. He just kept bringing it up. And every time there was a question when it came about, who are they going to keep? Who are they going to bring in? It all circled back to, our number one goal is sustainable success, which I love. Like, and I know a lot of people right now with the Lions, it's like, well, you need to win a Super Bowl now. Like, you only have one chance. Like, you got to do it. Like, I get that. But what was it year 1 and year 2 for those guys? It was, hey, let's find a way to get the right guys in the building and have sustainable success. Whether we're winning championships or not, you want to at least be in a position to, like, you have an opportunity to win a championship, right?
Yeah.
Like, you don't want to be stuck in purgatory, as people say, like the Pittsburgh Steelers or like the Washington Wizards or like some of these teams that are just like, or the Hornets who are just like on the fringe and they can never just figure it out. And it feels like that's what Trajan, like today, I got that vibe from him. And the one thing I love about Trajan, and again, this is another kind of trait of Brad Holmes. Brad says it all the time, and Trajan said it today a bunch. Like, hey, we are going to take a look at everything. Like, if you think that we're not going to look at bringing a star in via trade, we'll take a look at it. We're not going to just put it off because we don't feel we're in the position to do it, but we're going to look at it. And if it makes sense, we will do it. And if it doesn't make sense, we're going to push it off, right? Or just getting like a mid-level guy or a low-level guy. Or he said they even talked about the draft, like trading up in the draft. Like we look at every single possible angle and we will take everything into account. And if it makes sense, we're going to pull the trigger. Like that's what I love about Trajan, and that's what I love about Brad Holmes. And it's like guys like Troy Weaver, like let's call a spade a spade. Troy was never looking at any other option besides picking in the lottery. That was him. Yeah. He was never like, hey, let's explore this trade. Let's see what would happen if we move this guy. Let's see what happens if we sign this guy. What would happen if we did this? He didn't. All he cared about was like, let's just draft guys, man. Which obviously we have some dudes in our building now because of it. But that's never a way in any league, in my opinion, professional league, that you go about to try and win a championship. Like it's not going to happen that way. So I don't know. I thought Trajan today, man, I loved the press conference. A lot of confidence coming out of it. I wrote a couple notes down, and I'll save it until after we speak with Cory. But it does feel like, and the one biggest thing like I took away from it is just Trajan Langdon, Brad Holmes. Like they are, to me, the style of a GM that you want, a guy who's like, we are going to build long-term success here. And the fact that they had success year 1, I think is a jump start for Trajan. Like he's going to be ready to go for next year. And you expect another massive jump, not just because they did good this year, but because it's year 2 for Trajan Langdon. Like, that's just what it is. He's very poised, man. Like I'm a big fan of Trajan Langdon, man.
Well, let's bring in our good friend here, Cory Woods. Covers, the Pistons, Lions, he's doing everything for MLive.com.
Does it all.
So let's bring him in to chop it up today about the Trajan Langdon presser and kind of more in his thoughts, because he was there in person. You can follow him on Twitter at Cory Woods as well. But please welcome to the show, Mr. Cory Woods. Cory, how are we doing, brother?
Can't complain. How you guys doing today?
You see, Cory's got that. He's got that Trajan Langdon demeanor too, that poise.
He's locked in.
Composure. Time to clock in. Let's get to it. All right, Cory. I want just your initial thoughts, man. I mean, Trajan spoke today. We were kind of getting into it, and I think for me, and I admitted this today right before you joined, but it feels as a fan, you go into the offseason, you're like, okay, the next step is trading everyone away for some star. But then when you hear Trajan talk and he explains it and he's very intentional with it, and you start to think about it, you're like, you know what? This dude's only had a year with this roster. He doesn't have a ton of familiarity with any of these guys. And, and sometimes if you try and trade away guys too early, we've seen teams do that, by the way, with like the Thunder back in the day with Harden. It just sometimes doesn't work out too well. What'd you make of Trajan? We'll start with the free agency point, kind of how aggressive he's going to be, and your take on all that.
Well, first off, you have to understand the Pistons cap situation. There with the money that they have available, there is not many really high-level free agents out there that they can bring in to really like drastically change the landscape of this team. As he said, if they were to hypothetically, using his words, they were to hypothetically go out there and go acquire that all-star superstar talent, it would be through the trade market, which means they'll be parting ways with some pieces. More than likely, that would mean Tobias Harris, who has an expiring contract, probably Isaiah Stewart, their defensive anchor, and some other pieces to go ahead and land that star. So I don't think for fans to know, if you're looking for them to acquire that all-star superstar talent, it would be through the trade market. But when it comes to just what he said, I mean, you got to think it was about expected. They're already a schedule. When Jaden Ivey went down, they were what 15 and 18, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. That was on January 1st. And then they finished the season 44 and 38, top 6 seed. They're ahead of schedule. I think the thing that they probably will need to focus on is bringing back some of those veterans that they acquired. Maybe Dennis Schroeder, probably. I think Dennis Schroeder should try hard to bring back, but I think he's probably played himself out of Detroit. Malik Beasley is going to be a high priority. Potential he could play himself out of Detroit, but trying to bring back 2 of those guys, I think should be a priority. But aside from that, everything else he said made sense. I mean, yeah, they're ahead of schedule, so you're thinking some people are thinking go ahead and blow everything up and go get that guy to go pair with K. But right now, the thing that this Pistons team has lacked over the past couple of years is continuity from the coaching staff onto players. I mean, again, he said it himself. Some of these guys are on their 3rd head coach in 3 years. They have not been able to really gel together. And now I have a coach that they believe in, who believes in them, and they want to play hard for him. And I just think just see another year of how this works out. And if you get somewhere near trade deadline and it's not looking too good, okay, go ahead and maybe pull the plug. But again, everything I'm saying can be wiped out if the right deal comes along on the trade market. And a lot of these teams going into this offseason, they're going to have to blow these teams up with the way this new, this new cap space is, with the tax aprons, and teams just having high payrolls.
Yeah, Cory, one thing I wanted to ask you, because watching the press conference today, and I was saying it kind of before you hopped on here, I feel like today watching, and obviously just listening to Trajan, the way he kind of goes about his business when it comes to the philosophy of building a team. You've been in the building for Brad Holmes and Trajan Langdon, and you've covered other regimes in the Pistons organization over the last few years. Do you get a feeling that like kind of the philosophy of like long-term success that they both kind of approach building a roster and a team the similar way? Because all the comments today, it felt like those were comments we've heard early on in the stages of the Lions. Obviously, they had more success in year 1 with the Pistons, but like kind of hey, we want that long-term success. We're not going to just pull the trigger and add a major guy because we need to, but we have these young guys. It feels like it's very similar kind of approaches to building a team here. Did you get that same feeling being in both buildings?
Yes, I do. But also, let's look at the landscape of things. This is kind of a similar approach that other teams use as well. When you draft well, when you have young talent, you let them grow. Only in Detroit do I see that you got to blow everything up and go get that superstar. It's like it's kind of like people here are not watching the food that's on their own plate. Like, you know what? I got a New York strip, but you know what? I want his filet mignon over there, and I'm going to give up everything. And even though mine may be cooked the way that I want it, and I like my steak, I'm going to give up everything because I want what they have. And sometimes that works, but also when you have a competent GM, or in this case, president of basketball operations, who has done everything that he said that he was going to do in his first year, and they're already ahead of schedule, I think that gives him a little bit of equity to be able to see things out. I mean, I don't know how much stock people take into Vegas odds or whatever, but the Pistons were not expected to win more than 24 games. They won 41-44, and they got a top 6 seed. I think that you should be able to let this team build out the way that it needs to be built out, and then if the right move comes along, then you pull the trigger. Don't just, okay, here, now we got to go ahead and go rush and make this move. No, because again, you make a panic trade or you let somebody fleece you. I mean, no disrespect, but that's how you end up with the guy like maybe like Blake Griffin on a bum deal. I mean, you might get somebody's scraps. I know I've seen some local radio say, hey, trade these players and go get Zion Williamson. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Go trade for a guy that's only played 60 plus games twice in his career, 30 or fewer games in the other 3 of them, and missed the whole season. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to mortgage the farm for that. No, you let this roll out as long as you can and develop unless there is a trade that comes along that makes sense.
And Corey, when you were listening to Trajan, it kind of goes hand in hand with like letting this team play out. When he was speaking on Jaden Ivey earlier, obviously he had some words to say about the injury and how he felt having to see Jaden on the sideline during that. What do you think Pistons fans should truly expect out of Ivey coming off this injury in going into 2026 with seeing how the season played out?
It remains to be seen, to be quite honest. You want to see how he heals. Obviously, with the way that medicine is, in his case, thank God it was an ACL, not an Achilles. Then you'll probably have some real worries about him getting that speed back. But I think Pistons fans should just hope for the best that he heals up. I mean, when Ivey was playing his way into a really solid season, he was averaging around, I think it was 10.6 points. Like roughly around 45% from the field, 41% from beyond the arc. He was carving himself into a really good season, and he was also that additional ball handler out there on the court that can alleviate some of the pressure off of Cade. So you're hoping that he's able to come back and by training camp and at least be somewhere near, I'll say, 85, 90% of his normal self. So I think you should just kind of like hold out, because again, you still really don't know what you have in this group because they have not really all played together. And it just they have that continuity from the roster to the coaching staff.
Yeah, Corey, I mean, one thing he did mention, he talked about it too with Jaden Ivey. And I think people assume that if you were to make a trade, it would be with a player like Jaden Ivey to trade him away. But the reality is Jaden Ivey, as young as he is, and there's a high ceiling on him, obviously. But what are your thoughts? And kind of, it sucks they didn't have him against the Knicks. The series was really close. And if they just had a player like that, he's that type of player that can alter a series. What do you think the kind of future looks like with him and Cade, and how confident are you that they can thrive together and be? Because I know Trajan said that he had the quote. It was, and I don't know who asked it, but it was the second leading score thing. And he's like, I don't know. Trajan, it's going to be Jaden Ivey. But go ahead. Go ahead. What do you think of Jaden Ivey going forward?
Again, it's still a thing where we've yet to see this backcourt play together for an extended period of time, and something that people have been clamoring for. I mean, the 30-game sample size, we saw promise, but we haven't really seen a full season play out, whether it's one thing or another. I mean, last year is what we were expecting, but, for some odd reason, he was coming off the bench for Killian Hayes, but that's neither here nor there. But this year, I think we're releasing two guys that have been very vocal about respect for one another and wanting to make that partnership work. But, Ivey's injury cut it short. So I think that smart thing to do would be to at least see how Ivey heals and comes back and see what you can get out of that backcourt. But again, if the right trade, not just a trade, because you don't just trade people to trade people. If the right move comes along, you have to consider everything.
Corey, can I just follow up with that then? Say you're the general manager, you're Trajan Langdon of the Detroit Pistons, and you're getting trades to come across your desk right now. For you, what would be a player or what's one trade that you would be like, yep, they should take a look and do that? Is there a specific player? I don't know if I'm putting you on the spot. I'm sure you've thought about a couple guys already, but is there a specific player that you're like, that is a perfect fit for this Pistons team to take them to another level?
I have to do a real deep dive on that. There are a couple players that stick out into my mind. Our good friend, I don't want to throw his name. I don't want to throw him under the bus, but if he's watching this, he you know who you are. A good friend of ours, Jeff, had told out, hey, what if the Memphis Grizzlies decide to make some changes with their roster and float out Jaren Jackson Jr.? I mean, that would be a guy that, hey, if you got a package, maybe a Tobias, a Beef Stew, and another player, that might be a move right there. I mean, former defensive player of the year, guy's a bucket. Concerned about his rebounding in this past season, but that's neither here nor there. I'm pretty sure they can get together. But you definitely have to consider options for a stretch four out there. Michael Porter Jr. is another name out there. Not too enamored with him, but again, that could be who knows what a change of scenery would do for him. There's talks about Nas Reed out there on the trade market. Might have to make sure around Holland have some talks before that were to happen. I mean, on the free agency market, I mean, not trade market, but there's a couple of guys out there that could make sense for them. But I think, really look at teams that have these bloated payrolls that are not doing anything and need to kind of like abort the mission and make some trades.
And someone who better not be leaving anytime soon, especially after watching this playoff series, Corey, is Asar Thompson. What did you think of his performance in the playoffs? And then it's kind of the same thing I asked you about Jaden Ivey. What should Pistons fans expect out of Asar going into year 3 next year?
Well, what you would hope for the offseason is Asar Thompson, along with Ron Holland, would hope that both of them would be putting in extensive work with Fred Vincent, who's regarded for his work as a shooting specialist. He's worked with Lonzo Ball on his shot, Brandon Ingram, a lot of those guys over at the Pelicans still. So you're hoping that a full year of work with him, that they're able to go ahead and kind of work and refine that to, hey, maybe Asar shooting somewhere around. I'm not trying to make too dramatic of a jump, because if you look at his numbers, he's not a great 3-point shooter. But if you can get him into next year around the 32-33% to kind of start out, and maybe towards the end of the year he's around 35-ish, that would be a drastic leap, but a great one. So you're hoping he can work on his shot, because Asar Thompson is a jump shot away from being the guy they need to pair with Cade Cunningham, in my opinion, because he has everything else that you need from a player. Plays hard on both ends of the floor, will take the toughest cover on any given night. I mean, that's a guy you need to work with, because here's the problem. You're going to trade away Asar Thompson, and then you're going to try to go search for a defender like Asar Thompson you already have in the house, and you just need to refine the jump shot.
Yeah, Corey, one more question I have here, just because I'm interested in your thoughts on Ron Holland after this rookie or this last year for him. What are your thoughts on his development, what he's going to be in the next year, and kind of his role going into this next season with Cade and Asar and kind of this young, I mean, he's 19 years old. He's so young and raw, it feels like, that like his ceiling is up there. What do you think? How big of a jump do you think he takes into this next season?
The Ron Holland thing is very curious. It's very interesting to me, because he doesn't have Asar Thompson's defense, but if you just want to be like on really, really surface level comparison, they're kind of similar. So I'm still curious on how that's going to work moving forward, because just being honest, if people are talking about, the Pistons making the trade to get that all-star caliber player, Asar or Ron Holland is going to be in that trade. So that is something that fans would need to brace themselves for. You're not going to be able to keep both of them. I know people are saying, and Tobias Harris will be in the trade as well. I know some people are like, oh, who would want Tobias Harris? He has an expiring deal. Dodos. I mean, if teams want to, get back into the free agency, boom, you take on Tobias Harris contract, because it frees you up for free agents. But I mean, to kind of stay on point, yeah, I think another year of Ron Holland, I can see him. Ron Holland has more of an upside as a scorer than Asar Thompson. So again, I'm curious to see how they go about developing both of them, because I'm not sure there's a space for both of them being on the floor at the same time. But who knows? Maybe they believe that Asar can play the 3, and then you can go ahead and turn Holland into that stretch 4 possibly. Who knows?
Right. Well,
You
good
don't let
stuff, Corey.
Asar Thompson leave.
Yeah, I mean, Corey, keep crushing, brother. Appreciate you for joining, chopping it up with us, man. We'll stay in touch. Go out there, keep dominating, brother. We'll talk to you soon.
Appreciate it, Corey.
All right, see you.
There you go. Cory Woods, M Live, joining the
Shout
program,
out.
talking some Pistons. And
Legend, man.
yeah, I actually have some stuff I want to play. I have actually a
Whoa.
video that I want to share with you guys. Go ahead, Boom, before I load.
No, I'm just pumped up because I didn't know if we had clips from Trajan or not. I have notes. I'm pumped up to hear some videos too, so we can kind of put some things together. I actually do have one thing to say.
Yeah, go ahead.
Cory mentioned, and Jeff, me and you were talking about it before Cory hopped on, talking about like the way Brad's built this, built it, and then the way Trajan has, and he brought up a good point. They've both built it a similar way, like through the draft, right? Like obviously Trajan didn't draft those guys, but like that's what this team is. Like Ron Howland, Jay Ivey, Cade, Jalen Duren, Stu, like, and then obviously there's some vets. Feels like that's what's going on in Detroit too, because like Scott Harris has done the exact same thing with all these young guys, with Colt Keith, Riley Green, Spencer Torkelson. Like obviously they brought a couple other guys in, Parker Meadows. Like, but when you look at it like fully, it seems like Cory's not wrong. Like a lot of Lions fans, Pistons fans, just Detroit fans in general, they always are like jump to the and we're not victims of it. We're people who do the same thing, to where it's like you have to trade for Trey Hendrickson. You have to make this big splash move, or you'll never win a championship. Wrong, because you've just seen 3 of the 4 major teams in Detroit build through young players and through the draft, and now they're all very, very good. Right. And they're all like, hopefully the Pistons become contenders over the next year or two. And all 3 of the 4 teams are all sitting there contenders because they built through the draft and they built with their young guys. And it's like for years, boys, people were pounding the table for all of these teams to make the big move. Go get a big star, trade, F the picks, go do. All right. Now, are you happy? You have 3 of your 4 teams that are contenders to win a championship over the next 3 or 4 years. Now, how do you feel? Some people look very dumb.
Yeah.
Obviously, you still need to get a championship, but it's like you've built 3 or 4 3 teams that are going to be contending for hopefully a good amount of time. Well, it's like a golden age. It feels like a Detroit sports right now.
Yeah,
it's at the beginning of it.
It's fun to have the conversations. I mean, just to hear Trajan kind of talk about the roster, which I have a clip here. Hunter Patterson put it out. He writes for the
Athletic, right?
Yeah. He says most people are
Cory's spot on. There are a lot of people out there who.
All right, let's play this clip. We'll hear what Trajan had to say about this, just the team in the offseason.
You have to learn more about our players, right? Sarr played his second season, obviously a shortened first season, and he had a shortened second season because it didn't start on time, and really didn't have a summer either because of his blood clot last summer. So that's exciting for him, for us, that he's going to have a full summer to actually train as a pro that he really hasn't had yet. And for him to have the season that he had without a summer, without really a training camp, without the first month is pretty incredible. And that's something that we're looking at, seeing what that's going to be. JD took a huge step after the first 25 games. He was a different player the last 50, 60 games of the season. And he got off to a slow start, and we're hoping we're going to push him this summer as well. And I think he's willing to take that up to another level. And so I think if those guys take steps, we get better. Ron's 19. He didn't have a true summer either. He's going to have a whole summer with us in this building and in different places. That he'll have a summer league to train. And those are Stu will get healthy, and all these guys will come back, and there'll be a continuity with this, not only the roster, but with the coaching staff and his philosophy that this group has never had before. So I think that will be a positive through the summer and into next season as well. But the questions will be there about what do we do? Do we add another person, or do we just build from within? And again, like I said before, we'll look at all avenues and decide what the best avenue is for us.
So at the end there, he sprinkled. You have to keep your options open. So Trajan's job is to not close the door in any different scenario. Maybe there is a Jaren Jackson Jr. potential trade. Maybe there is a trade for one of these stars. The reality is, and I'll tell you this, you're not going to get Giannis, okay? You're not going to get Giannis because, number one, the Bucks, if you're going to trade for Giannis, you would have to trade the entire roster. I mean, there is not enough to be able to get a guy like that. He's probably going to go for like 6 first-round picks. So let's just get the Giannis thing, and they're not going to trade him in division. Devin Booker was the Sun has already came out and said he's untouchable. They're not trading him. They'll probably trade KD, but the Rockets are the most likely team because they can give up assets, like all that stuff. Maybe you can get Kevin Durant though. That's a pipe dream in my opinion, but maybe we can keep thinking about it. Zion Williamson, I think, is someone that it would be a huge risk. I don't know if that would be something Trajan would take. They preach about culture, guys that have similar kind of mindsets. I don't think Zion kind of falls into that equation, even though he's a very talented player. He's just not available. And you question a lot of things he's doing off the floor. So that's okay. So we got through Giannis, Devin Booker, and Zion Williamson. Now you start to look at other players, and Cory brought up a great one, which I want to know who said it now. I have some thoughts on that, on who potentially said that. But Jaren Jackson Jr., another one. He played obviously at State. And you have to look at, you have to talk to teams that are going to be basically resetting or dumping players, because Tobias Harris would be the one that you'd have to trade because his salary is $35 million. You can match it with other players that are making a lot of money, and they don't have a ton of cap space either. So you'd have to kind of match it with Tobias' salary. Isaiah Stewart, for example, another guy that's being paid a decent amount of money that you could match up with salaries. So there's only, maybe Domantas Sabonis would be maybe, I don't know, maybe if the Kings just say, you know what, F it, let's just get rid of him. But there's not too many players that are available that you can go out and just trade for. And we'll find out more as the offseason goes. But what it's really looking like, fellas, is you have a team right now with a bunch of young players. And I know we've been through this every offseason, but you have to look at it with a new lens because there's a new regime in-house. You have Trajan, you have JB. So it's not like this is Troy and Monty saying this. It's Trajan and JB who just took you to the playoffs. And you almost won a series with them. So you have to look at it from that lens. You have Cade Cunningham as a franchise player. You have Jalen Duren, who is clearly, he's shown, especially in the postseason, how valuable he is and how good of a player he can be.
Yeah.
Sar Thompson, who I'm very excited for, and the big thing with him, and hopefully him and Fred Vincent are tied at the hip all offseason, because he's got to get a shot. You have to be a better free throw shooter. He has to be at least the capable three-point shooter. I'm not saying
the defense has to be able to want to be like, hey, got to step up.
Yeah, you can't be a liability in the fourth quarter. You know what I mean? Down the stretch, you're worried about him not making free throws. That's the one thing you would say about Asar. And then Ron Holland kind of falls into that same equation. But if you re-sign Malik Beasley, who was in the running for Sixth Man of the Year, you bring back Dennis Schroeder, a very good backup guard, and you get Jaden Ivey back. And I get the question with him and Cade playing together, but the reality is Jaden Ivey last year improved in a lot of important categories. And Trajan mentioned it, his three-point shooting, which I think is the biggest thing. He shot 40% through all the games he played in. He's a very good three-point shooter. And then on top of that, he improved in pretty much every statistical category, points, rebound, everything, points, rebounds, field goal percentage, 3-point percentage. He obviously got better. He averaged 18 a game. So when you're looking at it next year, I know it's hard sometimes to look at players and look at, they should go from here to here to here. But in the NBA, when you have really good young players, typically they do that. They do improve kind of that way. They take that next step every year. Even Cade took another step this season. So you'd have to assume that Jaden Ivey will kind of do the same thing, and he'll be that running mate for Cade. Because I do believe if he was in that series against the Knicks, it would have been different. I think they would have won the series, my opinion, if they had Ivey and they had Stewart. So when I'm looking at this offseason, for me, fellas, what I'm comfortable with is you go out this offseason, you obviously explore the trade market. Maybe you go bring in someone that can go get you 18, 19 a game, that can play the four. I think the Sabonis would be a really interesting option there. But there's other options you can look at. But the big picture is I'm comfortable going into the next season with these guys still in-house for the most part, still having Cade, still having Ivey, all these other players, because it's probably the more likely outcome. And to be honest with you, the one thing that is so important, especially with a young team, is continuity. And these are all players that played together all year, got to build chemistry. And this team that you bring back next season, they know each other on a different level. If you bring in a player and trade away half your roster, unless it's Giannis, obviously I'd be on board with that. I just don't think it's likely. You're sticking a fork in the road and essentially trying to change something that you might not necessarily have to change yet. These guys are all very young, and I'm excited for the future. So what do I expect this offseason, guys? I expect him to go out and fill holes. Obviously, that 4 spot still kind of a hole in figuring out who's going to start there. You don't want Tim Hardaway Jr. starting. Respect him.
No.
Yeah, you don't want him starting in the lineup. But other than that, guys, I'm comfortable rolling into the next season with who they have. I think they're capable next year with a similar roster, with Ivey back, with Stewart back, and maybe making a trade for maybe not a Giannis level player, but someone that's a pretty good starter.
Someone who can give you something.
Like next year,
Juice.
5 team in the East, and they'll be a team that will. I mean, look at what the Pacers are doing right now. The Pacers, they got Siakam.
Siakam was that move that put them over the top, right?
Yeah, and they have a collection of really good young players alongside them. You look at the Pacers, man, they can run up and down the floor, but any given night, it could be anyone on the Pacers. That's what makes them so hard to beat, because Tyrese doesn't have to score 26 a game. He doesn't. He hits key shots. He just hit a game winner the other night. But they have so many guys that can get buckets and so many guys that are threats that they can sneak up on some teams, and they're going to probably be in the Eastern Conference Finals. So, I mean, look at it like that. You can do it the way you're doing it currently, and I think this roster, you just need a little more time, in my opinion. They're still very young. So that's the offseason I kind of expect, boys. More of a quiet one, but it doesn't mean that they're going to regress or stay the same for next season. I think they're only going to get better given all the young players they have. So I'm excited for it, but I don't expect a big trade. I just don't, the more I look at it.
I mean, when you say a big trade, I think it means like, hey, there's not going to be like, you're not going to get like a Kevin Durant or a Devin Booker or a Sabonis or a Giannis. Like, that's the big trade I wouldn't expect. I'll tell you what, Jeff, you broke it down very well there. I think really most like realistically, like let's look at it as this way, right, boys? If you take the exact same team that just lost in the first round and you put them on the court next year, you have 19-year-old, 21, 22, 23. Those guys are going to get better. Trajan said it in his press conference, boys. He said, listen, if we had a team that was full of 27, 28-year-olds and 29 and 30, and we lost in the first round, he was like, things would be different. I would be approaching this offseason different. But no matter what, like, a lot of these guys aren't going to take steps back, right? Majority of them, and most likely almost all of them, are going to take steps forward in their career. Like, there's not going to be, unless there's a knock on wood, an injury, most of these guys are going to take a step forward. Like, they're going to become better. Cade, like he said today, Cade, you need to get in better shape so you can play 40-plus minutes in a big game that we need you, right? Like, Isaiah Stewart needs to develop a little bit more. Jalen Duren needs to take that next step consistently. Asar, jump shot. Just like you said, Jeff, like, there's all these things that they need to do, and they're all going to do it because this is a full offseason, like with Asar with the blood clot. He finally gets an offseason to, like, go work on a jump shot with Fred Vincent. Like, he actually gets an offseason to, like, do that. He didn't start really playing until what? October, boys? November? And I'm not talking about just playing, like, actually being on the court with Fred Vincent and actually getting reps in with them. So, like, a lot of these guys are going to just naturally take a step forward to where if you took this exact team that you just lost to the Knicks and put them on the court for next year, they're going to be better than they were. They're going to compete for a top 4 seed, in my opinion. Now, Jeff, I understand what you're saying. There's not going to be a big splash. I would not be shocked the way Trajan was talking today if they go out and get a player like the Nas Reeds, or I don't know, some type of stretch 4 or maybe another scorer. Because like when Trajan's asked, hey, this was interesting to me. I don't know if you boys heard this at the very end of the press conference. Hey, Trajan, obviously Cade Cunningham's going to be your leading scorer next year. Who's going to be your number 2? Do you have an idea? Typically, you would think he's going to go, hey, Jaden Ivey, right? Like, I'm confident he's going to bounce back. He's going to take a big step forward. We know what he is. We know what he's about. He can be that next guy next to, as people say, the Robin to Cade. Guess what he said, boys? I don't know. I have no clue. And he said, I like it that way. And I love it because, and that's not me saying that. That's Trajan saying, I love it that way. And I like it to be like that because he's going to be able to have opportunities to potentially go get, just like the Pacers, maybe the Pascal Siakam of the Detroit Pistons, right? Like, to take that next step. So I think everything's open. I'm with you, Jeff. Like, there's not going to be a big splash, like one of these massive stars. Like, let's not have these conversations about Giannis or anything. I think that's unrealistic. You have to give up too much. He's one of the best players in the league. Like, if you could do it, go ahead and do it. Him and Cade would win a championship, in my opinion. Like, that's an automatic ticket to a finals. But you do have to realize, like, it's probably not going to happen. But there's going to be a move that's made. I can almost, in my mind, I almost want to guarantee, like, there will be a trade or a player acquired in free agency that could be your top 3 scorer for you in the 2025 season. And I almost like want to lock that. That's like almost a Booner lock right there.
Yeah, I'm taking the side that you fellas have as well. I think it's more responsible to wait on this big move, like the move that takes them completely over the top into a final contender, because the expectations next year for this Piston teams, in my opinion, realistically, should not be go win the NBA Finals. It should be win a playoff series, win 2 playoff series, but finally get playoff experience into winning a series. And I think if you have Jaden Ivey, it's that within itself, because if Jaden Ivey's on the court against the New York Knicks this year, Pistons are probably winning that series. So you bring Jaden Ivey back, you're at that level. When you now see yourself as, okay, we are a legitimate NBA team, can win NBA series, what is that one piece, to your guys' point, that can take you to the finals? You saw Boston all the time. They had JT and JB, but they had Marcus Smart there, and he was good for him, but it wasn't exactly what they needed. Go get Drew Holiday. Now they're walking back with the title. So I think that's what the Pistons need to do. Be patient. They're not in a spot where they can go blow a bag, to your guys' point, but let's look at where the expectations are, truly, because they're on the rise. But don't just be, you know what, Pistons are good again, NBA Finals, let's get there. Because that's when
they're winning it all.
Cade gets hurt. And I'm just saying, like, there could be things that you don't want to throw it away. But I agree with you, Boone. They're going to be finals contenders here in about 2 to 3 years. I don't think they could be like, make a run, but you don't see them, if they make the finals, truly winning it this young after last season. You expect that probably the year after.
It's about that time, Klotz.
You want
NBA Finals.
I want to see a full season of what this team can do healthy. And I know it's hard. Injuries are going to happen, but I mean, the Celtics had this problem for years with Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum.
It took them how long to get over the hump?
Well, the conversation was they got to break up. You know, that was the big thing. Like, break these guys up, and they won a championship. So, you know, sometimes, you know, the pressure gets to teams, and you end up prematurely making a move that you later regret. And do I have a definitive answer that Jaden Ivey and Cade can play together? No, because I don't have the sample size. But what I do have is 2 very good players that I think fit exact. I mean, you saw when they didn't have Ivey in that series, you're like, man, if they only had someone. That's why Schroeder was so valuable. It's like they just need someone that can handle the ball and be a legit threat and take some pressure off of Cade. I mean, Cade had games where he had 7 turnovers. You know what I mean? It's like you need someone to alleviate some of that pressure. And that's where Jaden Ivey would come into play. And I think with the development he took, I'm excited for it. I am. And I'm not saying they won't make a trade. I mean, Tobias Harris has 1 year left. So, I mean, I assume they're not going to extend him. So if they don't trade him this offseason, Corey put it in the chat, like you'd have to expect that maybe at the deadline that maybe Tobias Harris, you know, does get traded at some point. You know what I mean? So I think for me, I'm not expecting a big move this offseason. I think for Pistons fans, that's okay. You know, I'm not going to sit here and say that it would be a failure of an offseason. I mean, you never know. Trajan left the door open on it. Maybe there's something that comes across his desk that's pretty exciting, because there's always a team every offseason that is kind of on that border between good and like bad, and they just end up blowing it up. So I'm not saying that there won't be. Maybe there's a guy that's available that we're not even talking about. You know what I mean? Who knows?
Yeah. I think, honestly, look at last year, Trajan, like, obviously Tobias was the talk of the town, and everyone's like, go get Tobias. But, like, they're just still, like, there's just so many, like, there's so many pieces that Trajan's going to be able to be like, boom, 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 good to go. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like he's dialed in, and he knows, like, I'm not going to blow this thing up. I'm not going to just bring a guy in just to bring a guy in. It's the same with Brad, man. Like, Brad's just not like, hey, I'm not going to, like, obviously that, like, and you know what? This is where I respect Brad Holmes. Like, the fan base has been pushing him for an edge. Brad Holmes is like, I'm not going to say crashing out, but, like, he's like a little, like, pushing back. Yeah, pushing back to the fans, because the fans have been pushing him so much. And I respect Brad, because Brad's like, I'm not doing it just because you guys are saying it. Like, I'm the GM, and I respect him being like, I'm the one that's sitting up here right now. And a lot of people were mad. So many people were mad that Brad kind of took that approach, like 97-1. All these people are like, why is Brad acting? It's Brad Holmes. He built you a Super Bowl contending team. Like, he's allowed to sit up on if you keep questioning for 6 months about the same thing over and over after he has a Super Bowl team, yeah, he's gonna push back, and he's gonna let you know. Just like we've all been pushing him, he's gonna push you back, right? And I think Trajan's a similar way, where it's like, hey, he's not just gonna go, hey, I'm gonna go get Giannis just because the fans want me to, right? Like, I'm gonna go make him book Devin Booker because he's from Michigan, and the fans love Devin Booker. Like, no, that's not how this game works. That's not how it works to build a team. Bad teams and bad front offices do that. I don't see Trajan doing anything close to that.
Yeah, I don't think, honestly, the Giannis thing, like, I know it reminds me of like the Trey Hendrickson thing. It's just not it's just not for value, but because obviously Giannis will go for way more, but it's just unrealistic. I mean, you're just talking out of your ass at that point. Like
Yeah.
I just don't see how they can get that done. I don't. You would have to have it to where Giannis forces his way to Detroit. I mean, and even then, how much would you have to? I don't even know if the Pistons have what it takes to get that deal done.
I think you have to be in a position like for Giannis, and if I'm just being honest, like the Lakers are right now, like with LeBron and Luka, and there's an opportunity that, hey, if we can move some cap around, we are literally one final piece from we know we can win a championship, right? And yeah, the Pistons could be there in a couple of years, but like Giannis is only going to want to go to a team that right away is going to want to win one, which maybe if he comes here, you are a contender. You're not at that spot right now. Like financially, you have so many young guys that are 19, 20, 21 years old to where it just doesn't make sense. Where some of these teams have 25, 26, 27-year-old role players who have been in the league for 8 years and they're ready to go. It'll take a little time.
The Rona 99 says Cory and I want Kuminga.
I think it'd be nice.
Yeah, I would like to know what happened with Golden State. I'm not that familiar with the situation. I know he wasn't hurt. He just wasn't playing. They didn't have him in the rotation. I guess.
I don't
fit.
know. I don't know.
I would like to know more.
Yeah, I would too. I don't really know that whole situation. I know Kuminga is a pretty good player. I mean, he's 22 years old.
So young.
I don't know with that. I don't know. I don't know the details with that. I wouldn't mind it. I think Kuminga's a good player. He's kind of in the realm we're talking about. But another guy, I mean, someone brought up, I think Cory says, you don't want Miles Bridges back home. Yeah, no to Miles Bridges, man.
You guys are out on Miles?
Yeah.
27 days?
No, I'm out.
27 nights?
There's no way. There's no way. It's just, there's no way in hell that would be a good idea. There's just and I liked Miles Bridges coming out of MSU, man. I did. I liked him.
He had his first couple of years too. He was nice. He's not.
Yeah,
he's
not. It kind of goes back. I'm with Cory on that. I don't think bringing him back home is probably the smart move, especially because you're bringing him in. It's just the culture fit. Is he a culture fit? No, he's not. Because you have to start looking at it like the Lions. I mean, not that they are the Lions in terms of where they are, but the culture thing we preach about with the Lions, like no to Mike Green, no to James Pierce, not culture fits. Miles Bridges, not a culture fit.
I love the Cory poll of Jaren Jackson. He said someone that everyone knows said that, but I would like the Jaren Jackson move. I think that would be a very interesting one because he can stretch it. He can shoot. I mean, we were at the Grizzlies game.
Block shots.
He stretches. Yeah, defensive player of the year, as Cory said. Like that's a fit that you look at it and you go, him and Cade could be a problem, right? Like I know he's played with Ja Morant and Ja's very good, but I would take Cade over Ja, in my opinion, every day. And I think that duo right there would be itself very scary in the East.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think he'd be a perfect fit. I think Jaren Jackson. Like they can stretch the floor, he can block shots. He's big. I mean,
but that just comes down to like, what are you giving up, right?
Yeah,
like,
which I would be curious. I'd be curious with that too. I mean, you run into that Knicks series and they have Karl-Anthony Towns and Mitchell Robinson. You throw out Jaren Jackson Jr. and Jalen Duren. You match up with those bigs, man. Even the Cavs.
How frustrating was that, bro?
Like the Cavs have Evan Mobley and I mean they have Evan Mobley and Jared Allen, but they run those two big lineups. You go into that series, hypothetically, and you're like, yep. Yeah,
and he just fits what they want to do too. As far as like he's like a perfect culture fit for what the Pistons and JB Bickerstaff. Oh my God! Could you imagine
bring that man home, Jaren Jackson,
compared to Zion? I think Zion's listening. Like if JB's not putting up with Zion shit, not for a second.
No,
not for a second.
No.
Cory brought it up too. We talked about it the other day. Like Trey John was in New Orleans. If he really thought Zion was like that good of a piece, he would bring him in, and I don't think that's going to happen. I'm so far out on Zion.
I agree with that.
I'm going to keep bringing it up. A couple years ago, I got absolutely killed where we were before on air and on Twitter for saying I do not want Zion, and everyone was just in the building like, bring him home. And I'm like, okay, well, yeah, if you want a guy that doesn't play, he just gets paid to just hang out at home.
Yeah,
pay me the money. I'll play 20 games. I'll step in for 20 games.
Trajan was just there. I mean, you don't think he knows a lot about Zion? If he doesn't, it should speak volumes to who Zion is as a player. I think they're stuck with him, honestly. It's just my opinion.
Who wants the man? Who's taking Zion?
Yeah, I agree with that. All right, let's get into this ESPN stuff because, before we get to the Lions, because basically to explain, ESPN came out with an article and Jeremy Fowler went through every team in kind of rumors during the draft. He kind of, it's a nice article. You get to see like inside information for teams and what they did during the draft and what they almost did and stuff like that. Rumors post draft. Everything kind of leaks now that the draft's over. And he did one for the Lions, obviously, but he also did one for the Bears with Colson Loveland. So I want to put that on screen first. I can show you guys more context with that. We can get into that. Yeah, we'll do the Colson. We'll do some NFC North teams along with the Detroit Lions. So let's start.
This is first for me. I've not seen this article.
Okay, so we'll start with the Bears. So he dove into it and he said, Chicago quieted trade calls with the Colson Loveland pick at number 10. I've heard from multiple teams who said the lack of trade from number 3 to 25 was due in part to Loveland going off the board. He said, had he made it into the teens, someone would have made a move. While Penn State's Tyler Warren was the bigger name, Loveland's traits and upside drove week of draft buzz that he was the top tight end in this class. Some inside the league believe the Bears tried to make an early day 2 move, possibly to move up 4 spots to Tennessee selection at number 35. Knowing Chicago's legwork on running backs, Ohio State's Travion Henderson would have made a lot of sense in that regard. While Chicago has been linked to a free agent running backs, typically teams like to see what their rookies can do in May and June, while live on-field reps, a great chance for 7th round back Kyle Manungai.
It's on Rutgers, right?
Who has an intriguing skill set.
Yeah, very good player.
So apparently Colson Loveland.
You guys want to go back to 48 hours before the draft in a conversation we had? You guys want to? Remember, there's a reason why I have the crown of ball knower. Would you guys like to revisit that? Hey, there's 0% chance that Colson Loveland falls out the top 15. And what did I tell you, Klotz? I said, if he is sitting there after 12, there will be teams that are going to be trading up for him.
Yeah, I mean, go for it. This is going to be a reach. Like Colson Loveland, never going to have 1,000 yards in his career. Might have 10 touchdowns. But if you want to take a tight end top 10 that's not able to do it all, go for it. You want to compare him to Brock Bowers? Go for it. Brock Bowers was putting historical numbers up at Georgia. Colson Loveland put up good numbers at Michigan. Had a good quarterback for a lot of time at J.J. McCarthy. And he's going to be a good player. But you don't draft a player like that 10th overall, especially when you already have a tight end and you're loaded at the receiver spot. So good player, not 10th overall good though. So I'm happy about this pick for the Bears. Could he have some good moments? Sure. But Colson Loveland is not a move in my mind as a Lions fan. That makes me nervous and say, the Bears just got a lot more legitimate. No.
I'm just not going to go in circles with Klotz about this. I'm not going to do it. I'm not doing it. You made your statement. We're done with the Colson Loveland stuff. It's going to go in circles.
Yeah, move on.
Klotz will never give the man an ounce of respect, which is fair,
Just said he'd be a good player.
Yeah, I still, how I feel about, I'm Mr. Positional value. I don't like tight ends that high, so that's where I stand. I like Loveland, though. I just, man, it's crazy now that you got the confirmation that Loveland would have went that high. I mean, regardless.
Yeah. No matter what, he was going top 15. If Tyler Warren went in the top 10, the Colts probably are taking Loveland, or there's going to be a team that's jumping up to be like, we want him.
Yeah. I mean, well,
I would have liked him not to go 10, so we got to see who traded up, because I'm interested now. We'll never know. I'm interested to see who was going to make those moves.
Maybe the Seahawks?
Yeah. Chargers, maybe?
Yeah, McDonald, Harbaugh.
I think the Seahawks would have been a team.
Maybe the Bears jump back in. I don't know. I'm just throwing some wild ideas out there.
Well, the Packers also have one here, and it says the Packers passing on cornerback for the first 6 rounds seem to signify that Jair is staying with the team, barring a unique trade offer or contractual stalemate. The Packers and Alexander are working on a resolution that should materialize soon. A revised contract for Alexander, due $17.5 million in cash this year to balance his injury history, with his longtime status as an elite corner, might be the sensible play. The Matthew Golden pick at 23 a first-round receiver for Green Bay for the first time since 2002, was simply too good a value to pass up. Golden entered the draft believing number 10 to 20 would be his range. Fourth-round pass rusher Baron Sorrell was one of the 2 players in the FBS to produce at least 40 pressures and at least 10 run stops. So I'm you know what? I am really curious about the Packers. I want to see how good Matthew Golden becomes.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, they took a first-round receiver for the first time since 2002. So
it's interesting too because he's in a perfect spot. Like if you're talking about a spot, if you're talking about like for a receiver, in my opinion, a spot to like go succeed, they really they have a lot of guys in that room. They don't really have a wide receiver one. And Matthew Golden, who like a lot of us are like think he's going to be very good in the NFL, he has an opportunity with a decent quarterback in Jordan Love, decent offensive line, and a very good head coach that's a play caller. Like he's going to have an opportunity to be good. You're going to really you don't often see like high-end wide receivers go, to a team that's already a little established. I guess you do, but I'm excited to I'm not excited as a Lions fan, but excited to see in that offense what he does. Because Christian Watson, I mean, he's basically, I don't know if he'll ever play. Romeo Doubs had the concussion issue where he barely was playing. Now you have Matthew Golden.
Yeah, and Jair staying with the Packers, it's like, all right, he's
been hurt so much.
He has, man.
I would have got rid of him, to be honest.
I mean, he talked about the Vikings too. Jeremy Fowler wrote in here kind of their thought process with picking Donovan Jackson, and then they decided to take Ty Felton as well. And then they went into why Ty Felton was kind of the option for him because of Jordan Addison he was arrested in charge of the DUI last summer, which could result in an eventual suspension, which I actually forgot about. Actually,
I mean, that's ridiculous. They're drafting based off a potential suspension that should have happened last year if it happened. So it's like, are they going to, for the next 3 years until he gets suspended, just being like, let's get someone to replace him for.
And Jalen Naylor, they put as a 2026 free.
That's fair, but like being like, hey, they drafted him just because Jordan Addison might miss a couple games is 2 years after a DUI is nuts.
Yeah,
like, bro, what are we doing here?
I mean, they also put in here, they talked about Sam Howell because they acquired Sam Howell. And that would mean that
sleeping on him.
That would mean that JJ McCarthy is the official starter. Can I ask you guys this question too? I mean, this is way too early.
Please.
What's the feeling on JJ McCarthy? Because I've seen people around this city that may or may not have went to Michigan talking highly about JJ and why he's going to be very, very, very good. For the Vikings. And I just don't think we've talked a lot about what he can be. Where are you guys at? Because, we get into these arguments who will be second, but I haven't heard too much JJ praise on this show, Boone, especially what do you think, Boone? Let's get it out of you.
I think the reason you haven't heard it is because you know what it is. Like, I think it's a very well-known situation here. Listen, Jeff, if Nick Mullins could step into that offense and throw for 500 yards in a game, JJ McCarthy is going to be very, very good for this Vikings offense. He has some of the best weapons in the NFL. They have Aaron Jones. They have an offensive line. They've brought new guys in on the offensive line. They have one of the best offensive minds in the game of football in Kevin O'Connell. Who was his quarterback coach again, Jeff Iafrate? Go ahead. Josh McCown, one of the better quarterback coaches in the NFL. He has everything in his hands right now to be successful. He has no longer, and you could say, yeah, he's still a rookie. He hasn't played at all really in the regular season. Jeff, what was one thing, boys, that we heard over the last probably 8 months of his rehab? He was in every single meeting as a with the quarterbacks. He was out there for every practice with Sam Darnold and going through reps with them mentally, obviously not physically because of the injury. He was traveling with games to them and trying to get as many game day reps and routines as this man, and I know you boys are going to be like, oh, Booner, Michigan, man. No, like, let's call a spade a spade. Take the Michigan bias away, right? All right. Do I have anything Michigan around me? No.
No, you do not.
Take it all away. This guy's a pro's pro, and he has been it since he was at Michigan. And I know you guys, people clown him doing the yoga stuff before the game and all of that. This guy just prepares at the highest of levels. There's a reason he won a national championship, whether he put the numbers up or not. There's a reason he was one of the best leaders in Michigan football history. Like, he knows what it takes to do it, and he knows how to prepare for it. And then you add that in with Kevin O'Connell, you add that in with Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, and someone who's worked with quarterbacks and has made every quarterback in his room great. There's zero reason. This is going to be the best quarterback I think Kevin O'Connell has had in Minnesota. And I know Kirk Cousins, you could say that, but I think JJ's ceiling higher than a Kirk Cousins. It really is. Kirk was just a vet, right? Like, he's been in the league. He knew what it was. He knows what it takes. Once JJ figures that out, his skill set's way better than Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, I think starting out, JJ could have some rookie-esque issues, but JJ McCarthy by the end of the season is going to be at least where Sam Darnold had this team, in my opinion. And I think that JJ McCarthy naturally, just with the player
14.
that he is, brings more upside than a Sam Darnold, because I just think if you look at what JJ McCarthy is good at, it's one, being a field general, but Sam Darnold, even coming out of USC, a lot of turnovers.
Yep.
In New York, turnovers. JJ McCarthy, he's not going to have 5 turnovers. He's probably going to have north of 10 interceptions his first year in the NFL. But when you look at, they probably have a top 5 to 6 offensive line in football. The best, if not Jamar Chase, wide receiver. I know we debate it all the time, but it's for a good reason. Jordan Addison is very good. TJ Hawkinson, very friendly. And then the defensive side of the football, last year, the Vikings were creating turnovers more than anybody else in the league. It seemed like every game the Vikings were creating more and more turnovers. Offensive coordinator didn't go anywhere. Defensive coordinator didn't go anywhere. JJ McCarthy is in a spot to succeed. And to Booner's point, if Josh Dobbs is coming in off a week and then playing a week, flying in, getting signed from another team, coming in and then winning a game, JJ McCarthy after 2 years, again, and you guys push back on me for this, but I think when you look at what JJ McCarthy does, it is very Alex Smith-like. Got a big arm, mobile, number 1 overall draft pick, Alex
Andy
Smith was
Dalton.
in the NFL draft. And if you look at how Kevin O'Connell can use him, if this team has an Alex Smith, there's no reason. This team won 15 games last year, fellas.
14.
15 games. 14 games. There's no reason that if JJ McCarthy plays like me and Booner think he will, they're going to be north of 10 wins again this year. So I know we did the way too early NFC North rankings, but when they do, I have a different opinion about the Vikings, because you struggle to see the weakness in that team.
Whether you want to admit it or not, Jeff, JJ McCarthy has like the traits you want in a quarterback. Like, Klotz brought up a good point, the turnovers. He's a very smart quarterback, right? Like, he's going to have a couple brain farts, and he might turn the ball over and make a stupid mistake because he's in his first go around in the NFL. He's going to learn, and he's a guy, like, he learns quick and he figures it out, and he's going to just work until he figures it out. And I don't see a world where they throw him in there and KOC's putting him in a position to be successful. Like, the Vikings are going to be a problem, and I think JJ is going to surprise a lot of people. I do. What did McCollum tell us? He's ready to go. Man is ready to go. And I know he's supposed to say that, but like, I believe it. I really do. Here you go. Talking about Caleb Williams and the Chicago Bears.
No, I just
let's hear it.
Let's hear it. The thing that makes it very hard is I love Kevin O'Connell. I love the team. I think their offensive line significantly improved. They have all the weapons. I think he's in a position to succeed. But the question is, will he succeed in that position? You know what I mean? Will he succeed in the position he's in? And what kind of quarterback is he going to be? You know what I mean? And he's got the arm. He doesn't have a lot of reps slinging it around. Obviously, at Michigan, they didn't really ask him to do that a lot. And he missed a year because of an injury, which is hard because you're not actually working out. You know, this is kind of his first like full off season, ready to actually work out and participate. Even though he was there, he was in the meetings. You know, mentally he was able to digest a lot, but physically wasn't able to do a ton. For him, I don't know if it'll be this year. I think he's more of a guy you'll probably see more of the next season. I don't think year one, after missing all that time due to injury, you're going to see what JJ fully is. Or even like a really good year out of. I know the easy assumption would be, well, Sam Darnold thrived. You know, why can't JJ year one? But like people forget, like, say what you want about Sam Darnold. Like, he's been around the league. You know, he's played in different offenses. He understands, you know, how the NFL kind of works. JJ's still young, dude. You know, he's still very young. Like, hasn't played. I mean, he just hasn't. And honestly, the one thing I'll say about JJ that is concerning, he's very small. Very small. Like, not height-wise, but dude, you see Boone, have you seen JJ on the sideline?
That Julian saying.
I'm not worried.
Built like
I am Jeff. I'm not worried. Not one bit.
You're not worried one bit.
No, I think JJ's gonna. And I hate to say it because we're here in Detroit. JJ is going to be very good for the Minnesota Vikings. They have their franchise quarterback this season. It might take a couple of weeks. It might take till week 5, week 6 for him to really get under his belt. When he gets going, they're going to win. They're still going to win 10 to 12 games. Like, they're not going to take a massive drop, in my opinion. I think maybe a couple games.
I think they can win 10 games, but I don't think it's going to be like JJ slinging it all the way to 10 games.
Does it need to be
where he does? Well, that's the thing.
He'll probably be.
He doesn't. With the style that JJ plays, Kevin O'Connell can be like, hey, we really only need to throw the ball 20 to 25 times a game. There was times, especially in the playoff games and late with the Lions, Sam Darnold's throwing 35, 40 times. When you have not a rookie quarterback, but a first-year quarterback, you really don't want to put him in that position. But it's going back to all these quarterbacks that he's had. Sam Darnold is not a top 10 quarterback in the NFL, but was operating at a top 10 level for a long part of the season last year. I think when you look at, I think the Vikings will be in the playoffs again. I think JJ McCarthy will, not a 14-win team, but I think they're definitely a wild card team. And at that point, I think JJ McCarthy will be operating in the realm of like a top 15 quarterback. Doesn't make him a top 15 quarterback, but Jordan Love has moments his first year. And you're like, wow, this Jordan Love guy, he's got some upside. Now, year 2, year 3, whatever it was, that full year after, it's like, wait, here's the bad side. But JJ McCarthy, I think, will kind of have like that Jordan Love type of year where you're like, whoa, this guy's got something. He's a lot more refined than Love.
He'll be the 4th best quarterback this year in the division.
He might be 3rd. He might be 3rd.
I just think this needs to be revisited at the end of the year, and we need to clip that because you need to be held accountable, Jeff.
What about the other way?
No, yes, you can hold clip it. I'm thinking.
Yeah, you need to be held accountable. If this
okay, clip me then. Like, you could do this. You could say the same and do the same to me. I don't listen. I don't delete clips or anything. Everything's out there. We're live every day. You can clip whatever you want. I don't care. I'm conscious of knowing, hey, I'm going to remember this. Just like,
I'll remember it too.
I will remember it. I just listen, like, you're like saying JJ's like, hey, it's going to take him a while. This year 1, he probably won't do it year 1. It's not true year 1. He's been in the building for a year. I know he hasn't gotten the reps, but like mental reps, he knows the offense. It's not like he's going into a fresh offense as a rookie. I know it's the NFL, but you're sitting there and it's like, this guy knows the playbook. Like, typically a rookie's going in and it's like Caleb Williams last year, like first NFL playbook, not the best offensive strategy that they had there in Chicago, kind of going through it. But like with JJ, he was in the Kevin O'Connell offense for the last 17 months. He knows it, front and back. And it's not like he was just sitting at home, just reading the playbook. No, he was at every practice, mental reps behind Sam Darnold. He was traveling to games with them, getting game day mental reps. Like, it's just like he wasn't just sitting on a couch not learning anything over the last 17 months. He was like, he's, in my opinion, it's like, yeah, the only thing that you can argue is he hasn't gotten the passing reps because he didn't throw a lot at Michigan. But it's like, now you're just saying, does he not have a good arm? No, he does. That's the thing. It's like, he has a great arm. And like, if I'm a Vikings fan, I'm sitting there going, I trust Kevin O'Connell to take a guy with this talent and with how smart he is and the winning that he does, and to put him in this offense and let him go out there and cook. That's just, if I was a Vikings fan, that's how my mindset would be. That like, it would just be like, yeah, it's going to take a little time to get going, but everything you want out of a quarterback, this guy has it. More than Sam Darnold had, more than Kirk Cousins had. And then you add in Kevin O'Connell to that. It's like, come on now, man. Like, what was the last quarterback Kevin O'Connell didn't work well with? Nick Mullins? Nope. Threw for 500 yards versus the Lions. The Pasternak? Nope. Came in and got a bunch.
These guys were all experienced vets.
I don't care, but they didn't have the skill.
But with
first-year starters.
You do what JJ McCarthy could do. He's got a complete night and day different skill set than those guys have. Night and day difference. And now you're just saying JJ isn't mentally there for the NFL
game. No, I never said
that's the argument.
It's not. The argument is mentally you can be ready, but until you see Like Caleb has a whole season of seeing how the NFL's go. Like he's out there.
Agreed. But Jaden Daniels didn't.
But
yeah, really caught you back in your tracks.
Oh,
CJ Stroud didn't.
But so you're saying that
I'm not comparing them
then what are you
to
saying?
JJ, but I'm saying it might take him a few games to get there, but you're not going to sit there and just be like, hey, he's not going to get there in year one because it takes some guys. Just because it took Caleb Williams doesn't mean it's going to take JJ that. It didn't take Jaden Daniels that long to get used to it. It didn't take CJ Stroud.
Here's the difference, though, and you bring up Jaden Daniels and CJ. They both, they threw for how many passing touchdowns and passing yards at their last year in college? They had reps throwing it all over the place. You know what I'm saying? Like JJ was handing it off, and he has an arm. I'm not going to go that route.
I'm saying he does have the arm. That was the argument in the draft that we kept having. Was the one issue that I had with JJ was it might take him a year because of, and it was the same thing that you're talking about now. I just think the year with Kevin O'Connell, I know he didn't get the passing reps that you would probably want him to. I just think mentally being in that building, getting those reps, I think it's going to take him a lot quicker than it would, say, coming in just straight from Michigan, in my opinion.
Well,
you see what I'm saying there?
Yeah. We disagree. We agree to disagree, but
Clip. You don't see what I was saying at the end there?
No, you have confidence that with the mental reps, he'll be able to put it together
quicker than he would have if he was just a pure rookie. You don't think that's real?
No, but we just argued. No, I don't think that's real.
That it would be quicker.
No, it'll help, but he still's got to go out there.
Thank you. That's all it is.
It'll help, but guess what? You know what would be better if he was there in practice, participating.
The tough part is 2 days a year. That man's going to have he's going to have a terrible day versus the Detroit Lions.
That's how you hook them in at the end. I love that. Well, speaking of Lions, let's get to what Jeremy Fowler wrote about the Lions, his draft intel. I thought this was very interesting. And by the way, I mentioned at the beginning of the show, I'm having some it's a rebirth type of day.
Say it. Go ahead. What did I say? Klotz wasn't here.
A reborn virgin. I think that's that's what Boone said. I don't know why. It's got to be a virgin, but regardless, let's get to it.
There's a word and a term for it. I can't think of it.
So Jeremy Fowler wrote here, one of the most compelling stories of day 2 was the Lions trading up 32 spots into the early third round to take a receiver with 28 catches. Last season in Arkansas. But Isaac Teslaa is a prime example of why the pre-draft process matters. Teslaa, I'm going to put emphasis on the law. Teslaa was off the draft radar and had to scramble to get an invite to the Hula Bowl, which led to an invite to the Senior Bowl. He performed well at both, then caught scouts' attention at the combine by running a 4.43 second 40 at 6'4", 214. Had Teslaa not gotten that Hula Bowl invite, his draft positioning would have looked far different. But once teams started to see him up close, they scheduled interviews with him and did the research on why he didn't get the ball at Arkansas. It wasn't because of his attitude or work ethic. His personality shined in the process, becoming Detroit Lions' Brad Holmes' favorite player in the draft. Some attributed his low production in college to lack of communication and experience at quarterback.
Oh,
Teslaa had a great pre-draft process with the New Orleans Saints, who picked 71, and the Buffalo Bills, who picked 72.
Wow.
So it wasn't lost on Teslaa that Detroit traded directly in front of those two, plus Denver at 74, which went to receiver Pat Bryant. So,
wow.
If there is a person that is still lost, essentially what Jeremy Fowler is saying is they traded up that far to take a player that probably would have not been there that much longer.
Would have gone the next pick potentially.
Yeah, the next pick or picks. You got New Orleans, Buffalo, you got Denver. And to be honest with you, I don't know about the Saints or Buffalo. I'm not going to say it's not true, but I can see Denver. I can see Denver liking Teslaa. I can see Sean Payton being like, this dude's exactly what we want, kind of is that Pat Bryant. He's that type of player, fit build wise, physically.
Same style, right?
Similar. Big body, he could play outside fast, and has a lot of upside. So basically, boys, let's have a conversation here, okay? Am I thrilled by Brad, giving up third-round picks because I think Brad is so good, and especially in that third round. I'm not, it's tough to let those picks go because of how good Brad is picking in the third round. And we just went through Eric DeCosta talking about how the more swings you have at bat, it's important. But Brad has a different philosophy. If he loves a player, he's going to go up and get him. And he obviously liked Isaac. And when you find out information like this, I got to say, I was wrong. I was wrong to think that Isaac Teslaa would have been there, or at least would have slid farther down. And there was no promise that he would have been there. No, I mean, Jeremy Fowler has pretty good information that suggested that he would have probably been gone in the next 10 picks. So
For sure.
I say all that to say I was wrong. And I think if you love a player, you go get him. And he did exactly that. Now, it doesn't change the expectations for Isaac, right? You still expect him to be at least a good player. And I'm not saying the guy's got to be like Megatron or 2.0. But what I'm saying is you trade up in the third round, you expect him to be pretty good. That still stands. But the whole trade thing and me throwing a hissy fit over the trade, I was wrong about that.
Whoa, what are you doing?
I was wrong about that. I was.
What is this?
What?
Why are you saying you're wrong?
Did you not just hear what I
No,
said?
I heard it all. Okay.
Because the big argument is, again,
Was Teslaa going to be there?
he wasn't.
That's it. Okay, he wasn't.
The expectations
That doesn't. Yeah, the expectations are still there, but
right.
the trade was still crazy.
Yeah.
The trade 2/3 to move up. To me, giving up 2/3 next year is crazy. Like I think maybe you could go, hey, let's do a third and a fifth, maybe a third and a fourth, but like 2/3, in my opinion. Like I think at the end of the day, no matter what. Now, if you want to make the argument, Jeff, and this is where I'll be like, okay, whatever. If you want to make the argument of it's gonna play like it's gonna be worth that many picks, okay, let's look at some third round picks. Kirby Joseph, all pro. Aleem McNeil, potential Pro Bowler. You look at fourth round, Amon-Ra St. Brown, all pro. Like, I'm not saying he has to live up to that, but we're not just talking about like, hey, you just used 1 third round pick on him. You essentially used 3 third round picks, right? It's the 2 that you gave away and the 1 you used on him to grab him. So you basically said, hey, he's worth 3 third round picks to take him and trade up and take him. So it's like the expectations are very high for him. Right. And I'm not going to sit here and say he needs to go out there and get 1,200 yards. I don't think he's going to do that for you because you already have guys in this room like JMO who can get you 1,000. You have Amon-Ra who can get you 1,500 and Laporta 800. Like you have all of that. But it's just like giving up 3 thirds. And I know you didn't give a third away, but you picked a third. You used a third on him. You're basically saying, hey, that's the value I look at him as, right? And what are 3 third round picks? Let's say like a second, late first, right? Like that's how you kind of value it. So it's he's that good. That's the only problem I have. And listen, I like Isaac Teslaa as a player. I think he's going to be a great fit for this team. Jeff Iafrate, Klotz, I think over the next 2 or 3 years, he's going to end up being a massive piece for your offense. Like I think his ceiling is there. And I think putting him in a system to where like his skill set can shine is going to change everything for him. Like everything. He played D2 and then he went to a D1 that didn't have a quarterback and didn't have an offensive system. And he still gets drafted in the 3rd round. So it's like, all right, you put him in a room with a real receivers coach who has Scotty Montgomery now. And then you put him in a room with Dan Campbell, Johnny Morton. Is it David Shaw, I believe?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You put him in that room. With Amon-Ra, let him catch 100 and whatever it is that Amon-Ra catches a day. Let him catch those with Amon-Ra, those passes. This guy's he's gonna be very good. But I think like you saying you were wrong about the trade to me. That's ridiculous. Like that was a bad trade. Value-wise, the trade was like, and maybe that's how it was, but felt like a little bit of a reach of the trade.
Quick, before you go, Klotz, when I say I was wrong, what I mean was I was wrong for assuming he would fall because we don't know.
That's fair. Okay, that's fair.
I think that was my big thing is like, really? Now, does it change my expectations? No. Like I think if you draft him at, what was it, pick 70, I think it was, around that, that's a top pick in the draft, top 70 player, wherever he was picked. I forgot off the top of my head. So the expectations are still there. It was really just had to do with like, man, this guy who would have been there. Like, there's no confirmation based off the information that Jeremy Fowler
probably wasn't going to be.
Now,
there's a lot to give up.
I don't disagree with you, Boone, though, about the trade. But go ahead, Klotz. I just want to make that clear what I was saying there. I don't know if
I think you're going to see if the trade's worth it or not if he overtakes the Jamison Williams role. If because he's slotted as the wide receiver 3, the guy to overtake Tim Patrick, and then the trade's not worth it because then in that instance, you're probably going to go into next year's draft and take just an example, Carnell Tate in the late first round. And if you do that, then it's like, why did you truly give up those assets? But if Isaac Tesla's, to Booner's point, if he's able to come in and be a friendly quarterback target for Jared Goff and show true signs of life of being able to, hey, he's on the outside, he's 6'4", but he moves like he's in the slot. That's the combination of a number 1 wide receiver. And that's with the upside, the reach translating into the NFL. That's what he can bring. Now, you're not going to overtake Amon-Ra St. Brown. You're just not going to do it. I don't think he's just going to be able to overtake Jamison Williams and Sam Laporta as that second option. But you don't think Isaac Teslaa next year is going to be even close to what you truly expected him to be when you drafted him. So when that JMO contract comes up, that's when you really see if this pick is worth it, if this trade more so is worth it. But I think in the first year, as far as specifically the trade, you can't judge it just yet because to Scott's point, if you're going to want to stay in this draft and not give up more picks, you have to trade future assets. And if you're trading 2 third-round picks, does suck. But Brad Holmes, if he wants to go up and get a guy in the 3rd round next year, well, here's 2 thirds for next year. So I'm not going to be overreacting about the trade until there's something that truly makes me does. I know at first sight in the draft, it's like, wow, 2 thirds. But when Scott's talking about it yesterday, and you just look at the fact that, wow, this kid's ceiling is actually very high, I don't think you can hate it too much. Now, if they go out next year, top 3-4 rounds, they take another wide receiver, then I'm like, okay, what the fuck did you do last year as far as moving up for a guy that's honestly like Isaac Teslaa, different context, but he's this year's Broderick Martin. He's this year Giovanni Manu because he's going to take development in the NFL. The only thing that's a lot better about Isaac Teslaa is he's coming from Arkansas, an SEC school, a Power 5 school, where you can see the clear traits aren't years away from being on an NFL field.
Let's hear this. I love this. Shout out to Cody, man. He says he's not overtaking Jamel's role. LOL, clowns.
Yes.
He's literally Patrick's replacement. We aren't re-signing him after this 1-year deal. Listen to Brad Bozos.
All right, guys, you go ahead if you have. I was just saying with Cody, like if you look at Cody's chats tonight, Cody is also saying, why are we complaining about the 3rd round picks? Hey, Cody, you can't play both sides here. If you're not going to be like, hey, don't complain about the 3rd round picks and then be like, he's only Tim Patrick to play. You used 3 thirds on the man. I'm not saying he needs to be Jamel's replacement. I don't think anyone is, but he better be an absolute dog of a receiver if you're giving up 3 third rounds for the man. So you can't play both sides and be like, well, he's really not going to be that big of a role and he's not going to be that big for your team. But let's not be mad you gave up a bunch of assets to get him. But hey, he's really not going to be that big for your team. Come on now. Let's not play both sides.
That's the thing I guess I'm confused by. People, and this isn't directly at Cody, but I've seen people do this where it's like, like, oh, it's not a big deal that they gave up what they gave up, but it's like, and then they try and like temper expectations for him. Like you can't do that. You can't have it both ways. Yeah, you can't do that.
If you trade 2 thirds and use a third on him, there are now expectations, whether you like it or not. And it's like that with any player. It's like with Giovanni Manu. If he ends up not doing something, that was a big swing and a miss. It's like that with any. And sorry, Jeff, don't mean to do that to you.
No,
you know what I'm saying? You make a move, especially if you give assets to go chase and get a guy, and he doesn't work out, especially in like the first 3 rounds of the NFL draft. Now, if you make a move in the 5th to move up earlier in the 5th or in the 6th,
that's like okay. This guy.
Okay, who cares? Like, you're giving up a 6 for next year. Who cares? But if you're giving up a top 3 round pick and you're giving up 2 more of next year, you're sitting there going, okay, your expectation compared to just a normal 3rd round pick, this is your expectations if you're a normal 3rd round pick. You give up 2 more and that's 3 total, boom, you better be a dog. And I think Isaac Teslaa can, but none of us will know until it happens, right? Like it might be 2 years until we.
Yeah, can we meet in the middle? How about this? There's probably a crowd of people that want to have like insane expectations, knowing he won't live up to them, and then there's people that want to temper expectations that are just ridiculous. So how about we meet in the middle and say, if you're a top 70 pick in the draft, you got to be a somebody. You know what I mean? You can't be a wide receiver 3 for your career. You know what I mean? And by the way, Just to give context, Cody, in this offense, a wide receiver 3 does produce, though. How many yards did Tim Patrick have?
300, 400, if that.
No, that's not going to cut it. So it's not. I mean, if what? He's going to get you 300 a year, and you're cool with that? You know what I mean? Does that make sense? Like when you say that out loud, you're like, no, the fuck it doesn't. You know what I mean?
You expect 700 yards out of a guy you
maybe
use
not
3/3 on.
I'm not saying this is going to be immediate, but like that's what you expect out of the dude. You know what I mean? You expect the guy to be like a 700-yard guy. No one's saying he's going to be 12. I don't want to put unfair expectations on him, but 300 yards, man.
I mean, if he ends up the next 4 years having 300 yards every year, I'm going to sit back and be like, yeah, that was just, to me, he was a solid player for you, but for what you gave up and what you used, it wasn't like, it didn't live up to those expectations.
That's just me and Pascal type vibe.
Yeah, like, all right, he's done a good job. Like, he's a good role player, decent. You can live with it. But like, even Josh Pascal, you just used a second on him. You didn't give up picks to go get him. I don't think you traded up for Josh Pascal.
Well, but even Josh, though, remember, they took him in the second, and what do? We held him to second-round standards.
Levi O.
And it didn't work out, and what did we do? Because if Josh was a fifth-round pick, no one will be saying anything. Because it's like, well, he's a rotational piece. The guy's a second-round pick, guys. This isn't. I think people have to remember, like the NFL, man. Remember, and we went through this yesterday. Eric DeCosta mentioning it. Like all these players in the draft, anyone can work out. You had Max Crosby come out in the 6th. Obviously, like players are everywhere. If you're selected top 70, like that means something. You know, like that's pretty significant. Like they think you can be pretty good. I don't think Brad's looking at it like, let's trade up 30 spots to take a dude at 70. Again, I don't think I'm getting that wrong. Is it 70? I don't even know off the top of my head.
Yeah, it was 70. But
to say this guy will just be a very solid wide receiver 3. Like, you know what I mean? Obviously Brad loves the guy. And I mean, and he said he's his favorite receiver, so rightfully so if you really love him.
And the thing is, too, it's like with Eric DeCosta thing. It's for him. He's like, I don't move up, and I try and move back to get as many picks and many opportunities as I can, right? To where if you have that mindset to where, hey, you don't know who you're picking. You really do. You can do all the evaluation you want in the world. You never know how a player's going to work out. You could think, you know what I mean? Like it comes down to luck at the end of the day. Obviously there's some skill, but in Eric DeCosta's eyes, the Ravens GM, he looks at it and it's like, hey, there's a luck factor to this whole thing. So I get as many picks as I can and I try and hit and get lucky on as many times as I can. Now, if you look at it in that way, boys, when you do trade up, it means that much more, right? Like you're giving up those 3 other players or 2 other players or whatever it is, like those opportunities to hit on players, right? Like say Brad hits 2 out of every 3 players, or let's say 1 out of every 3 players. Guess what? He just gave one of those players up for.
Well, it's really probably on his data. It's probably 2 or 3.
So if it's 2 or 3, right? Yeah, he just gave one of them up. So let's say 2 out of every 3. He had 3 picks, 2/3 next year, and this year's 3rd. That means Isaac Teslaa has to work because he's hitting on 2 out of the 3, right? And if he doesn't hit, that was a waste of those 2 picks because Brad hits on them.
Yeah.
So no one's saying
go on.
He's not going to hit. Like I have more confidence that he will, but
it's just setting expectations.
The jury is out, right?
Which I think is fair with that. I do. So again, I'm not trying to be the guy that sets like crazy expectations, but I don't want people to set like ridiculous low expectations. Like, you know, like
it's okay if he gets 100 yards this year, man.
Yeah, like Tim Patrick's role, I get that, but he's not going to be a wide receiver 3 throughout his rookie deal. You know what I mean? So it's
sure.
And Cody says Rams are trying to give the Jags a 2nd rounder for pick 70, trying to get an edge. Yeah, like again, we'll see how this LA, because if Isaac Teslaa becomes a pretty good player, no one's really going to give a shit what you gave up for him. So let's see how this thing kind of pans out here. All right, I wanted to get to. Can we get to this breakout player thing? I was excited about this. Can we get to this?
Yes, sir.
We're going to talk today.
I took notes on my player.
Yeah, let's do that. Second year Lions players. Chat. I want names. Give me 2nd year Lions players, and you go off of last year's draft class. Give me a breakout player. And I know the obvious one would be Terran Arnold, and I'm not going to hate you if you say it, but I'm not going to hate you. I'm not going to hate you, but go on. You can do Terran. All right. Go ahead, Boone, because you already kind of said it, but 2nd year breakout players. Let's go.
I think it's like, I don't know. I look at other players and I don't want to take your guys' away, but there are players It's the year 2. I personally, if I'm being honest, I think out of last year's draft class, I think there's only 2 guys that you really are going to see break out, in my opinion, maybe 3. I think you can make an argument for a third, and I hope one of you two do, because I think the third guy was my favorite player out of last year's draft class. But if I had to put my money on it for a player to kind of take a big jump, to me, boys, it's Terrion Arnold. And I'm not saying just like, hey, it's a jump to where it's like, hey, it's pretty decent year 1 to year 2. No, I think this is one of those things. Klotz, you love corners, you love secondary. Brad says it all the time. Defensive coaches say it all the time. A year 1 to year 2 jump is one of the biggest, especially in the secondary for some NFL players. Like to prove, like, hey, I belong, right? And if you look at last year, boys, Terrion Arnold, he had 10 pass breakups, which in my opinion, that's not that bad, right? It's not the best in the NFL, but it's decent. He had 10 penalties. That was his problem, right, boys? Like we talk about it all the time, where it was like, hey, the most simple fixes he could make, like turning his head. You remember how many times we watched the game last year at a watch party? And we just like turn Terry on, and he doesn't turn, and he just like tackles the guy, and you're like, what are you doing? That's the only problem right now, I think, with Terrion Arnold when you look at it. And I went and got some stats here. From weeks 1 to 4, boys, so he had 10 total, or maybe 11 total penalties. I might have gotten the numbers wrong there. Between weeks 1 and 4, take a guess on how many of those 11 penalties came in 4 weeks, the first 4 weeks. Anyone have a guess?
I would say 8, 7, 8.
8 penalties, boys.
Oh.
8 out of the 11, or 8 out of the 10, whatever one you want to go with. There was 2 sites that had 2 different things. 8 out of the 10. From weeks 5 to 18, 2 or 3. That's it. 2 or 3, and that is it. And it came in 3 weeks. It was all separate weeks as well. Week 9, week 10, and week 14. And then when you go look at his PFF grade, boys, this is where you guys know me and PFF. You start digging a little deeper. Like, hey, what did Terrion look like? Was there any improvement? For me, I know Terrion can tackle. I know in the run game he can step up and make plays. To me, it was his coverage. Like, what does his coverage grade look like in PFF from weeks 1 to 18? From weeks 1 to 10, boys, guess what it was? It was 48 was his coverage grade. Not good. Right? Like, that's just plain and simple. Like, hey, not a great coverage grade at PFF. But after week 10, when he started turning these things around and the penalties went down, a 67 coverage grade from week 10 and on the rest of the season. So he took like 20 point jump in PFF coverage grade in those what is that? 10 weeks, right? Like you split it in half, basically the season in half. So when you look at like the improvement of Terrion, I don't think anyone, and I don't think you guys, I don't think anyone in the chat would ever argue that Terrion doesn't have the talent, that he doesn't have the skill set, that he doesn't have the size, that he doesn't have everything it takes to be one of the best in the league at his position, correct? Like that is never the question, I don't think, with Terrion Arnold. He was elite in college, and the reason he went first round as a corner was because he has all the attributes and everything that comes with being a great corner. I think it just comes down to just figuring out the game a little bit in the NFL level. Like, I think it's just more so adjusting to the game, figuring out the penalties, figuring out the coverage, communication with the other guys on the field, the other corner, the safeties back there. And I think as soon as he gets that, which to me, it felt like down the stretch last year, he felt that. I'll be the one to say it. I think he becomes one of the, I don't want to say it. I will say it. I think he becomes just a lockdown corner in 2025, boys. One of the best corners in the NFL. And you're looking back at it and you're going, all right, that's the reason that Brad Holmes drafted Terrion Arnold in the first round. That's why he traded up a couple spots, because Terrion was falling. Terrion was a projected top 15 pick, falls into the 20s, and Brad says, I need to go get him. And I think with everything he has, the talent that we know he has, the measurables, I don't see a world to where he doesn't take that jump. The only reason people say he was bad is because of his penalties and because of his coverage grade to start the season. He improved from the start to that finish. And then in year 2, I think he ends up being one of those guys where people look at like, hey, that was a breakout player. Like, he is one of the best corners in the NFL, a top 10 corner. And there's a reason they drafted him.
I love it. Yeah, I mean, I think Terrion Arnold, going back to the expectation thing, it's like, you draft in the first round. I know it was late first, but still, like, you expect year 2 to be
expectations.
Yeah, and he needs a healthy pass. I mean, like Cody Ingle just said, mix in that with a healthy pass rush. If they can get to the quarterback, man, help the guy out a little bit.
I just think the thing, and the one thing I just took away from thinking about Terrion in this step was, again, it's just like not the he has everything there. Like he has it. It's just about adjusting to the NFL game and taking that next step. And if he's in a good position, I think Kelvin Shepherd will put him in the right spot. And then you think about with DJ Reed in there now, like I know that he had Carlton, but just another voice in there to kind of teach him a little bit more. Think about DJ Reed. He was with Sauce Gardner for so long. Like he's going to learn so much from DJ Reed that he probably didn't learn as much from Carlton. And imagine that. I'm not saying he's going to be Sauce Gardner, Terrion, but I think you could see him take a big step to where people are like, hey, this kid could be a Pro Bowler.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know if
I agree. It'd be
Sauce.
huge for the team too.
So sauces with Ice Spice out there in New York.
Shout out Sauce too, man.
Yeah, that's a fun fact. But go on, Klotzy. Who do you got?
Yeah, I mean, Boone said Terrion. I'm going to go with the guy in the same draft class, same position in Ennis Rakestraw. And it's a polarizing player because you're sitting in a position where you have Terrion Arnold, like Boone just spoke about, DJ Reed, Amik Robertson. I mean, they even bring guys in like Avonte Maddox, who's going to be in that nickel spot and possibly safety spot. But when you look at Ennis Rakestraw, second-round pick, the Detroit Lions are going to try to see what he has. And I know it sucks to say, but injuries in this defensive secondary are going to happen. At some point, don't know who it's going to be. One of the defensive backs that are starting are going to go down. And if you look at what Ennis Rakestraw does, he's very instinctive. Like when you watch his tape at Missouri, he's always around the football. He's very good at the line of scrimmage. He's good in man-to-man. He's good at pressing people. If he's going to want to be on the field, it's going to have to be at that nickel spot. He's going to have a big camp and beat out Amik Robertson, or at least put enough respect on his name where it's like, hey, Amik needs a blow, put Rakestraw out there, and you can let him do some damage inside. But I don't see a way for him to start on the outside with Terrion and DJ Reed there. But with that being said, Ennis Rakestraw, we only saw him for like 40-plus snaps. We barely saw anything out of him. What he can bring that we didn't see next year is a lot. He's a violent football player, a little undersized, but he's 5'11", bigger than DJ Reed, bigger than Amik Robertson. And when you look at where he was drafted, above where those both guys were. DJ Reed was in the second round, but when you look at Ennis Rakestraw, Brad Holmes was very high on this guy. And I think it's very pivotal to see what he does this year, because the fact you do have Amik on an expiring contract where he could command a little bit of money. But with Ennis Rakestraw, I think he's in a similar situation with Mekhi Wingo, where he's got to beat out some guys to be there. But you're not asking him to go be Terrion Arnold, go be DJ Reed, but be a Swiss Army knife for Kelvin Shepherd going forward for this team, where you could see the vision of, hey, this guy's going to be the starting nickel going forward. Ennis Rakestraw, he can play on the outside, but I think with his anticipation, how physical he is, and just how well he sees the ball at the line of scrimmage, where he's not getting washed, he's not looking at the quarterback's eyes or the receivers too much. He's just a very instinctive player. He's somebody that you can see coming in, if injury, creating some more turnovers and just being another Swiss Army knife for this defense. So Ennis Rakestraw, people are forgetting about him. People are writing him off. That dude can play some fucking football. And I think in 2025, we're going to see a lot more of him, and he's going to be in meaningful games making some plays.
I mean, this one's a layup to me.
I would say if there's one guy that's left, if you don't say him, I will leave the show forever.
Second-year breakout player. It's Christian Mahogany.
Thank you.
It's Christian Mahogany. Two reasons. One, he's starting, and you only got to see a game, so it's like the perfect breakout player, because you're going to see now a full season. Number two, he's playing with a very good offensive line. Okay, so that's just the fact of the matter. This dude's going to have a breakout year, and what I mean by breakout is, I mean he's going to start to take that step into being a borderline, I think, Pro Bowl guard. You know, they obviously Zeitler left for other reasons, but the Lions are comfortable letting Mahogany start there, and he is a very, very good player. I know people look at the draft position, the 6th-round pick, but you go back to Boston College, he was very good at Boston College too, and I think he only allowed, I don't think he allowed a sack his final year. I can't remember off the top of my head, but he was excellent at Boston College's last year. I guess one leg being longer than the other, for whatever reason, was the reason. But he's going to be, I think, I don't know, he won't be a Pro Bowler this year, but he'll start to kind of ascend into that conversation where you're like, that dude's a future Pro Bowler. That's what I see out of Christian Mahogany. I know he's playing on Taylor Decker's side and Frank Ragnow, but Taylor Decker will be healthy. Frank is Frank, and I think he's going to hold down that left guard spot. So to me, boys, the easy answer is Christian Mahogany. He's going to be starting. He's going to be a big, impactful player for the Lions. And it's integral. I mean, you got to keep Jared Goff protected. So that's the reality of it, man. It's Christian Mahogany.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
I'm clear.
All right.
Good.
Sorry, I can't hear myself.
I see a lot of people talking about Mekhi Wingo too.
Mekhi, I think, is one that needs to be talked about a little bit. I think Mekhi could be quietly a good one to look out at.
Yeah, I mean, he'll have a wait. I don't know what he's they came out with an article to try and extinguish Hefe. I got to rewind it to see. Not me.
What is this?
You're not talking about me, right? I got canceled.
Who's doing what to you?
No, I think he's talking about something else. But regardless, yeah, I think Mekhi Wingo. I'll say this about Mekhi Wingo. Okay, I think Mekhi will have opportunities this year. I think what helps him is he could play on the edge a little bit. He's got some versatility, but I don't know if you'll see like breakout. I don't know if it'll be breakout level. I don't know.
The problem with Mekhi, and I think Mekhi,
because of the opportunity.
You guys know this. Mekhi, he was my favorite in the draft class last year. I love Mekhi Wingo. He's going to be very good. He just didn't really he didn't have all of the stats in the world at LSU, but if you just watched him play there, you could tell, all right, this guy's a dog, and he was like a leader there too. So he works, man, and I love that. But the thing with Mekhi is they just drafted Tyreek, right? And I know you could say move Mekhi to the edge, but you just signed AQM. Josh Pascal's been playing edge. Levi O at times has played out. It's just right now, again, it's such a packed D line room to where he's going to have to battle to get snaps. He got snaps last year, but why did he get snaps? It was because everyone was getting hurt from week 1. And he ended up getting hurt. And if he didn't get hurt last year, I bet you his development is that much more, and a lot of more people are talking about him. But I think it's just more so with Mekhi. It's you just have to sit back and hope that he earns some snaps and gets some opportunities, because there are a lot of guys in that room, a lot. And if a guy goes down, guess what? He's ready to go. Next man up.
Yeah, you're in a good situation with him, because I think with him and Levi O at the kind of that depth spot, because I don't view him as the DJ Reader or the Roy Lopez. They're two different style of players. You're not putting Mekhi at the nose tackle, the zero tack, but he's right there. He could run Josh Pascal right out of Detroit. I'm sure Josh Pascal probably wouldn't cost much regardless in free agency, but why spend money on Josh Pascal when you really just have another miniature version of him, Mekhi Wingo, who, when you watch the tape, he was explosive. He was powerful. Between weeks 1 through 4, he pretty much doubled his snap count at one point. He had a pass rush rate of 12%, pass rush win rate of 12%, which was tied for the best in the NFL among rookies. So there's signs of life are there. It's just the complication of Booner, to your point,
snaps,
really packed defensive tackle room, and he's coming off of a major injury. And obviously early in the NFL career as a 6th-round pick, that's not ideal. But if Pat O'Connor's making this roster, if he's going to be getting on the field, Mekhi Wingo, you can bet your ass will as well. So I think you're going to see him playing on a lot of spots on this defensive line. I don't some people are saying in the chat that throw him at the edge. Mekhi Wingo's not an edge. That's just, it's not going to work out there. But as a 5-tech, 3-tech, he can definitely do some damage and be that one of those pillars of that rotation on the defensive line.
People also said Levi O couldn't come off the edge, and he at some point you can go watch snaps of him having to. Some of these guys are gonna have to play positions, and I think they could do it. They wanted to.
I want to get to some of the stuff that happened today and something that I found today. I have a couple things. This is let's get to around sports, because really around the NFL today, because I saw some things that have been going on news-wise. And today the big one that broke was George Pickens being traded to the Dallas Cowboys. Bless you. To the Dallas Cowboys for a 3rd-round pick. And you texted this morning about it. And the Steelers wanted to dump him so bad. They couldn't even wait, because if they let him walk, they would have got a compensatory pick for it. They could have had George Pickens this year, let him walk, and got a compensatory pick.
Bless you.
And they said, "See you later, George Pickens."
I think the Steelers were it was kind of a breaking point. It was definitely a breaking point for the Steelers and George Pickens. And then I actually saw someone tweet it out today. They were like, the Steelers are just good at knowing when to step away from a wide receiver. They did it with Antonio Brown, Chase Claypool, Deontay Johnson, and now George Pickens. They have a feeling and they know kind of what it takes. Hey, this is when we have to. I'll say this with the Dallas Cowboys. I think maybe this is just me. I think, and then Klotz, I agree. I saw your tweet. Like, I agree with you. They're probably not going to win it. They're not going to win a Super Bowl, and they probably won't win in the playoffs. They're going to make the playoffs, and they're going to fight for the division. Like, I truly believe that. I think they're going to be a 10 to 12 win team, and it's like they have added pieces. Like Jerry Jones, as much as like we're like, hey, this guy sucks. I went and looked at like the additions they made this year. They've added some Dante Fowler, Donovan Izarako on the D line. They got 2 running backs in the draft that like potentially could end up being their dude moving forward. They got the Texas running back, Jadon Blue, I believe it is, and then the Clemson guy who had like 1,300 yards. Like they went and got running backs. They brought in 2 new running backs in free agency. They bring in George Pickens. Like I do think, I think they did the right moves. Like I think Jerry Jones made the right moves. I'm interested to see how they're. Someone in the chat said Brian Schottenheimer, how he does. But I just still think like they're going to be a good team. They're not going to be like a scrub team. Are they going to win the playoffs? No, they won't. They always choke in the playoffs. But I think it was a good move for them, like a kind of a one year deal with George Pickens, just kind of going all in to try and take a shot at it.
I mean, they elevated themselves from a 6-win team to probably like an 8-win team. I think they could maybe come in 3rd in their division. But when you look at what the Cowboys are, they look sexy on paper in some spots. But this team, even more so with 2 rookie running backs and then Javonte Williams, like they're so reliant on Dak Prescott. Like George Pickens is a good wide receiver. He's probably top 20 wide receiver in the NFL. Immense off the field issues. And they got to feed that ball to CeeDee Lamb. So the second that Dak's not getting the ball to George Pickens, there's already enough media attention around Dallas. I think if Dallas truly wanted to go and get a weapon, draft one. You just had all these picks. I think that this is just going to be putting immense pressure on Dak, immense pressure on Brian Schottenheimer to make something happen that he just physically does not know how to do. I mean, this team, they've had Ezekiel Elliott, Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb. They've had Dez Bryant, Jason Witten, DeMarco Murray. And now they have Javonte Williams, Jaden Blue, whatever the running back rotation is, and then CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens. They never have won anything before. They've maybe won a division every couple of years and they get bounced in the wild card round. They won't even be able to do that this year. So Jordan Lewis put out the tweet. I thought it was funny because Jordan Lewis and I had our beef. But when the Cowboys signed or traded for George Pickens, he was like, thank God I got out of there. God wanted me in Jacksonville. And I just think things with Dallas, until you find a way to not have Dak Prescott be paid $60 million, until you have a way to have Jerry Jones not running the show there so you can have a competent actual NFL organization, the Cowboys will just be continuing to be the Cowboys, so the Chicago Bears of the NFC East. And I just don't think that George Pickens, like when you were looking at it, you're like, wow, that offense got better. They just got another wide receiver to go with CeeDee Lamb. Sure, they've had that multiple times and yet to win anything. I don't think it's going to be as much as some people. Not saying you do, Boom, but I think there's people that really are saying like Cowboys, CeeDee, George Pickens, Dak, NFC East champions, if not right behind them, and they're going to be a 5-6. Like, no, this team's going to be.
That's where I disagree.
If they get in the playoffs, in my opinion,
I disagree a little bit. Like we agree on the same point. Like they're not going to win anything in the playoffs, but they're going to contend in the regular season. I think you're discounting a little bit of some of the players currently in their building, to be honest. But that's fine. We can agree to disagree on that. Like, I think Dak is going to be fine. They're going to find a way. CeeDee is very good. George Pickens, as much as a problem as he might be, he's still good. And they still have Michael Parsons. They still have that defense. I know they lost a couple pieces, and they brought dudes in. Like Dante Fowler had 10.5 sacks for the Commanders last year, and they brought him in to go with Micah Parsons. Like, I don't think those are quiet pieces. They drafted Tyler Booker. Like, they've made the moves, I think, to contend. 6 or 8 wins, I think, is crazy. I still think they get 9 to 11. Like, that would be my range for them this year. 9 to 11, and
they get 11. That'd be shocking.
Well, I mean, 9 to 11. I'm saying range 9 to 11. Like, you have to look at come on, Klotz. You got to hear me. 9 to 11.
No, I know, but I'm saying I'm not saying
like 11 to me is their ceiling, and that's like they make a wild card and they maybe contend for their division, and they're in it down the last few weeks. But like I don't know, it's like we're acting like they were like one of the worst teams in football out before last year. Like before last year, they were contending. They won the NFC East. So I just don't think it's like that bad to where it's like they're just all of a sudden a 6-win team because they were bad last year. There were a lot of injuries last year. Almost every one of their players were injured all year besides CeeDee Lamb. And they still, how many wins did they have last year? And all they had was CeeDee Lamb. That was literally it.
Yeah.
Well, how many wins? Let me see.
Maybe he got hurt. I just think
Yeah.
Commanders getting better. I think.
Well, yeah, that's why.
Quietly,
That's why I don't think
like-
they win. They went 7-10 last year, and they had no one. They literally had no one last year besides CeeDee Lamb. It was literally just CeeDee Lamb, and then there was games he was out, and they won 7 games. Now you add back Dak, you add back Micah, you add back CD, you add a couple other pieces. I don't see a world where they don't go. Minimum, they're going to get 7 again, and then I think what they did, they're going to improve. I do. I see what you're saying. The NFC East is a brutal division.
Yeah, I just think like.
But look at the NFC North last year.
It's going to be one of those things where I think by like week 10, it's Dallas is up in flames again. Like they're going to suffer. Like
I typically am with
the Giants. Like the Giants, I think are on a very similar tier to the Cowboys because of their front 7. And you
that's
look at Malik
crazy to have the Giants and Cowboys at the same. That's nuts. Giants don't even have a franchise quarterback.
Let's think about it. Okay, but if you want to say it's not even like defense, Giants are better. It's not even close. Offensive line, close, especially with Zach Martin. Call that a draw. Malik Neighbors, Wan'Dale Robinson. You're going to give the receiving advantage to Dallas, but Malik Neighbors is still a dude. Wan'Dale Robinson is still a dude.
I'm out on this whole. I'm not going to sit here and compare the Giants
Ryan
to the Cowboys.
With
I'm
Dak
not
Prescott,
doing it, Klotz. That's ridiculous.
Or Dable with Russell Wilson, and then I'm saying overall teams.
Klotz,
I think the Giants are probably in a 6 to 8 win range. Cowboys are on like a 7 to 9 win range.
No,
like
I'm not doing. We're not doing that. That's ridiculous, Klotz. They
had a great draft. They had
a good draft. I mean, they're not that
the line in football.
I don't even think it's close. The Giants to the Cowboys. Let's play this. I want to play this though real quick before we end the show. I don't know what show this is, but this is, I guess, Nick Chubb potentially to the Bears.
Am I on the right?
This is, I guess, Nick Chubb potentially going to the Bears, boys. Hold on. Can you guys hear this?
Chubb.
Yeah.
I can't hear anything.
A silence came over the room. Are we ready? I'll ask it again.
It seems
Are we ready to say goodbye to Nick Chubb?
It seems like it's over.
I got to tell you guys, maybe I shouldn't say it because it's going to kind of cast a pall over the room. I heard he is kind of getting close to another team. It happens to be in the NFC North.
Clarify that?
No. Not any further. All great things got to come to an end. And
why do you think it had to come to an end in this situation, especially this year?
I hope that I do. I hope he comes back. I really do hope, but it's looking more and more unlikely that both sides. I think both sides are kind of ready to move on. It seems to me. Say goodbye.
All right. I think that's the Bears. I think that's. I think there's been rumors. He didn't say it straight up, but there have been rumors that Nick Chubb has had conversations with Chicago. I think, honestly, I don't know, Klotz, you might not be a big on Chicago. I don't know if you are. That's pretty. That'd be scary. Nick Chubb, if he ends up being healthy and gets back to even 75% of what he was before on that Bears team with the weapons they already have, that's a scary offense.
Yeah, it's hard to kind of think about because you're hearing the name Nick Chubb and you know he's not Nick Chubb anymore. But if you add into the fact that Nick Chubb's going to be with DeAndre Swift, he's not going to be what Josh Jacobs was for the Packers last year, what Aaron Jones was for the Vikings, but he's kind of that Chicago-style running back where it's like, you're in Chicago, man. You're outside. It's cold. You're in the NFC North. You can't have DeAndre Swift and expect that to work consistently. They have Roschon Johnson, but we've seen Roschon Johnson. He's kind of like Roschon Johnson honestly just reminds me of Kerryon Johnson without the injury. So he's just there. Like he can be productive somewhat, but he's not really anything. Nick Chubb does give them that veteran side where he might only give you 500 to 600 yards, possibly more, but I think they're going to want to air the ball out there a lot given the target that they have. But those 500 to 600 yards are just going to be painfully timed for the other teams. Like when it's 3rd and 3 at the 7-yard line, and now Nick Chubb's walking in for an 8-yard touchdown. It's just those tough runs that they already have so many weapons. And when you look at their weapons, it's kind of like, oh, DJ Moore, flashy. Rome Odunze, flashy. Colson Loveland, flashy. Luther Burden, flashy. DeAndre Swift, flashy. Nick Chubb's kind of that change of pace where it's like, this is a guy that the Chicago Bears have that can punch you in your fucking mouth, and you have to actually watch out for because Nick Chubb still has something to prove. Like Nick Chubb was stuck in Cleveland and getting his career wasted.
If I'm being honest, if I'm a Detroit Lions fan, I'm not scared of Nick Chubb one bit. I do not care about Nick
Yeah, I
Chubb
don't
going to the
think-
Chicago Bears. You have the best run defense in the NFL. Like, what is Nick Chubb going to do? What are the Detroit Lions defensive line going to do to you? We have Tyreek Williams now, DJ Reader, Aleem, Hutch, Levi, Josh,
Campbell.
Jack, Anzo. I'm not too worried. Yeah, boy, what if he gets you 60, 70 yards on you? Okay. That's going to win you a game?
Live with it.
All right, go ahead.
You'll
Give
live
Nick
with it.
Chubb the ball
Nick Chubb's not a
20
season
times.
breaker.
Give him the ball 20 times for 50 yards. Give him the ball 15 times for 40 yards. Okay. I'm not worried one bit about Nick Chubb to the Chicago Bears. That's not gonna win them the game versus us. All right, Klotzy, we'll end the show here. I don't know what happened to Jeff. The man is in purgatory or something. I don't know what's going on with him. JJ McCarthy. Yeah, I don't know. His camera. He looked like I messaged him. I said, "Brother, you look like a Lego over there."
Took that excuse and ran.
And he just dipped, man. Hey, I don't know. This guy. Yeah. I'm not going to say it. All right, though. Hey, we'll talk to you guys tomorrow, 8 to 10. Tomorrow, I think we have Raj on tomorrow talking some Tigers.
Can't wait.
I'm pumped.
Crazy game going on right now.
Yeah, I'm about to go. As soon as we get off here, I'll probably throw it on and just relax for the rest of the night. But appreciate you guys all tuning in. We'll see you guys tomorrow, 8 to 10 p.m. Love you guys.